the Bharatiya Janata Party has been saying that, there has been multiple violations. We already know there is a letter that has been written by the Lieutenant Governor to the Home Ministry, and then further from the Home Ministry it went to DOPT and then to CBI to register a case. It will be interesting to see, though we know that ED has denied on record that there is a PMLA case, but my sources say that yes, there is a case already registered, and they are basically trying to find out if there is any money laundering angle into it, or they want to track down the proceeds of crime. So ultimately, let's see how things move forward. But in current context, we are seeing that yes, this case of liquor policy has become a full-blown battle between the Aam Aadmi Party and the Bharatiya Janata Party, where they're alleging corruption against each other.
Okay, Ashish, thank you for that context. We're going to go back now to my colleague Rupashri Nanda. Rupashri, both parties clearly playing masterful games of optics over here. Could you also give us the context of two state elections that are set to take place, Himachal Pradesh in a little while, but first, obviously, Gujarat?
Well, actually, that is the crux of the matter over here, according to Aam Aadmi Party. Remember, Gujarat is the most important state that Aam Aadmi Party is going to contest elections this year. And Aam Aadmi Party is actually trying to make the contest in Gujarat a triangular contest. So far, Gujarat has always seen a bipolar contest between the Congress and the BJP. And BJP has been ruling Gujarat over 25 years. And therefore, there is a perceived sense of anti-incumbency against the BJP. But then Congress party does not have its main leaders who used to be there earlier, and though Congress party has support, especially in rural areas, as we understand, but in terms of its leadership, in terms of its face, Congress party is not seen by some people as giving a stiff opposition to the BJP. Now, also remember that when the raids on Sisodia's house happened, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal was in the national capital. Manish Sisodia was also there in the national capital. The following day, actually, Manish Sisodia and Arvind Kejriwal made a public appearance when they had to go to the court together to appear in a defamation case. But Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal spoke in strong defense of Manish Sisodia only in Ahmedabad. And in Ahmedabad, actually, both Sisodia and Kejriwal addressed a joint press conference. And in that press conference, actually, many questions were put to both of them, including one question that was put by one reporter from there. That is, now this is a do or die battle. So if Mr. Sisodia, as you have alleged that somebody from the BJP came to your house and gave you an offer, why then don't you go ahead and disclose the name of that person? Because Aam Aadmi Party has made this huge allegation that Manish Sisodia was offered money to break away from the party and also offered to be made the chief ministerial face of the BJP in case he breaks away more MLAs. But then Aam Aadmi Party really has not been able to substantiate that claim so far. It still remains a claim as it has been spoken about by Manish Sisodia himself, Arvind Kejriwal himself, and the other MLAs. So that is so Gujarat actually is the main battleground. Now, if Aam Aadmi Party actually manages to perform well in Gujarat, and what do I mean when I say well? I do not mean that Aam Aadmi Party is going to win Gujarat elections. But even if it manages to give a stiff fight to the Congress in many parts and to the BJP in some parts, then also it does.
All right, and this is huge news. As we speak, the Supreme Court has closed all the proceedings arising out of the demolition of the Babri Masjid all the way back in 1992. In just a second from now, we'll have a colleague join you with a lot more context on what this big development means. I'll wait just a second for that to take place. My colleague Ananya is with us. Ananya is our legal correspondent. Ananya, for audiences joining us right now, bring us context. Why is this monumental?
Well, this is a very, very monumental. This case has been pending for years now. And remember that these are the contempt cases that were filed against the Babri demolition in 1992. Now, the Supreme Court noted that the petitioner in this case died in 2010. And in fact, Mr. M.M. Kashyap, who was appearing today, said that in place of the petitioner, there should be amicus that should be appointed. However, the court noted that due to the passage of time and the 2019 verdict, the Ayodhya verdict of the Supreme Court of India, clearly there is no room for this case to continue, and this has gone old with passage of time, and hence the Supreme Court closed all of these contempt proceedings. Remember that this is the particular case in which ex-UP CM Kalyan Singh had to go for a one-day imprisonment, and this is the particular case in which Supreme Court had directed him to stay in prison for one day. And now this case comes to a closure after a lot of years, and completely a very, very monumental decision coming in from the Supreme Court of India, a bench headed by Justice U.U. Lalit. The Supreme Court bench giving out a clear view that no proceedings shall continue into this particular case, and curtains have been closed down in this case.
Ananya, who was on the bench? My colleague Ananya Bhatnagar bringing us more updates. I think we may have actually lost our connection with him, but we'll try to re-establish that connection to try to understand more about this ruling as it's come in. Aspects that we still need to understand, obviously, include who were the judges sitting on the bench as the Supreme Court decided to quash it. We'd also look to understand what lawyers fighting the case have had to say, if we already have any statements coming in from lawyers. Right now, though, it is time for a short break for our audiences. We'll see you in just a few minutes on the other side.
Unstoppable 18-week sprint. India's indisputable #1. CNN News 18 on your side.
U.S. Navy sent 2 cruisers through the Taiwan Strait.
2 guided missile cruisers, the USS Antietam and the USS Chancellorsville, passed through the Taiwan Strait. The US Navy said the transit is a reflection of its commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. This is the first time such an operation has taken place since US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan last month. In fact, Taiwan has become a major flashpoint between the US and China ever since Pelosi's visit. Taiwan is a self-ruled island, but China sees it as a breakaway province. The US abides by the One China policy, which recognizes only one Chinese government and has formal ties with Beijing and not Taipei. After Pelosi's visit, China responded with unprecedented military drills near Taiwan, which included firing ballistic missiles, sending Chinese warships and PLA warplanes breaching the median line.
Meanwhile, China continues to flex its muscles. The latest is that it's testing hypersonic bullets. Now, these hypersonic bullets can travel at 4,000 meters per second. They move at 11 times the speed of sound. These bullets were fired at the thighs of pigs, leaving large crater-like wounds in their flesh. They don't penetrate the skin, unlike traditional shots. They just leave a huge crater behind. Ayushmann Khurrana and Ananya Pandey celebrated India's win over Pakistan in true Bollywood style. We'll leave you with this. Heavy rains in Karnataka have led to widespread destruction, even shutting down large sections of the Bangalore-Mysore highway.
All right, we're returning right now to a story we were tracking over the last few minutes. On the left side of your screens, Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia present right now in the Punjab National Bank with officials from the CBI who are taking a look at the contents of his locker. Sisodia had arrived there just a little while ago to be present while authorities did this. My colleague Ashish Maharishi, who tracks both the CBI and the ED, with us right now to bring us more updates. Ashish.
तो इन सबको हटा दीजिए, इन सबको हटा दो आप, हम इनको बाहर निकल रहे, बाहर निकल रहे।
Okay, as we told you a little while earlier, my colleague Ashish is with us right now. Ashish, I believe we are actually trying right now to play out a bite of police officials present right now at the PNB. Do you have any input on from your sources about what officials are saying right now?
So, too early to comment because, after the searches, the CBI has been tight-lipped about what they have found during the searches. But if you go through the content of the FIR, it very clearly says that there is some sort of proceeds of crime which was collected, and the proceeds of crime was basically generated through the liquor policy. Now, it's not about one violation that we are talking about. There are numerous number of violations which the CBI is looking at. And especially what they're looking at is about the cash being generated after the kind of relief that was given to liquor manufacturers, as well as especially the distributors, the wholesalers and the retailers. So if they're basically looking at the commission that was increased from 2% to 12%, the BJP has been alleging that there has been the increase from 2% to 6% was basically done so that 6% out of that could basically go in cash into the hands of AAP. So the CBI is basically looking at the cash generated, and if in case something they are able to find if the benefits of the liquor policy actually reached to the hands of certain people, and then ultimately it landed into the hands of senior leaders of Aam Aadmi Party or not. That is what they're looking at. But having said that, it will be too early to comment whether the CBI, after registration of FIR, if they have been able to track down the proceeds of crime or the money involved. That will be too early to comment.
Right, Ashish, thank you so much for being on the broadcast with us. This is the big story that we are tracking. Very, very dramatic scenes outside the PNB Bank, where Manish Sisodia is also inside the bank, and the CBI officials have now arrived to actually look at the lockers over here. How bad does it look for Manish Sisodia, Ashish? Because earlier, he's staying with the stance of nonchalance. He's saying that the CBI officials will go ahead, probe my lockers. They're not going to find anything.
So, he has taken a stand. There is no doubt about it that the CBI could not find anything at the time when the searches were conducted at his house and various other locations. That is what he has been claiming. And he has been saying that the CBI is more than welcome to look at the locker and they will not find anything. Though there are dramatic scenes outside the bank. We are seeing a number of media officials there, a huge crowd also there. But at the same time, he has taken a stand that the CBI cannot find anything, and he and his family members will basically cooperate with the CBI. But ultimately, though it is posturing, though we can say it's a building of narrative as well of Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP against each other. But let me tell you, the CBI and the Enforcement Directorate are agencies where if they knock your door, there's some sort of evidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Ashish, I'd actually like to pose that same question to my colleague Rupashri, who's also joining us. But I'd like to take this one last question from you. The fact that the raids were conducted for over 14 hours at the residence of the Delhi Deputy Chief Minister, Manish Sisodia. Now the CBI has come to the bank lockers. If we talk about procedure, just take our viewers through it.
So the procedure basically is that the CBI is going to basically look at all transactions into your bank. The CBI is basically going to look at all the bank lockers if you hold. They will try and find out if there is any hidden wealth, if there are any files related to the liquor policy which has basically hidden, or there is some sort of evidence to prove, because there is an FIR that has already been registered. So the CBI is basically going to look at all sorts of evidence. If they're going to look at all sorts of evidence, they need to complete the search. So procedure is basically that any sort of bank lockers, any sort of private lockers, any sort of lockers at house, any place where they could anticipate that there is some sort of evidence related to the case that could be found, they will search. So here they found one of the lockers. It's an old locker in Punjab National Bank, Vasundhara, belonging to Manish Sisodia, and it can be opened only in his presence.
Right.
So that is why a date and time was given.
Okay.
That was today. And that is why Manish Sisodia was called, and in his presence, the locker has been opened.
You pretty much answered my next question, Ashish, but I'll still go ahead and ask it. This was the exact reason why, this locker search was not done along with the residence when the residence was raided, because a time was supposed to be given. Could it not have been done during the same process when 2 weeks ago, when the residence of Manish Sisodia was being raided by the CBI agencies?
So, it all depends what has been found at that point in time. So during the searches at home, they would have found a locker. So the locker, because the teams were already placed at different locations. So, when they found the locker, the first thing that they do is that they intimate the bank. The mail is sent, and then subsequently a physical letter is also sent to the bank. The bank seals the locker, and nobody can touch the locker until and unless it is opened in the presence of CBI officials and the concerned person. So that is what the process is. So they found a locker during the searches, that there is one locker existing in the name of Manish Sisodia, and that is what the process is, that it needs to be opened in his presence. So the CBI officials and Manish Sisodia, they came at the same time, and the locker is being opened.
All right. Ashish, thank you so much for joining us with all those details. I'll now take this across to my colleague Rupashri, who is also with us on the broadcast. Rupashri, I'll again come to the posturing bit that Ashish was also talking about. That nonchalance that Mr. Manish Sisodia has been staying with remains. He has once again reiterated the fact that the CBI officials are going to go ahead and crack into his locker. However, they are not going to find anything. Is he standing with the same stance, or there is some sort of a wavering from that?
Well, no wavering from Manish Sisodia's stated stand at all. It is not to say that Manish Sisodia is not under pressure. It is not to say not disturbed. It's not to say that it's not being burdened by the entire thing. Why am I saying that? It is because when actually Manish Sisodia spoke in detail about the incident of the CBI raid at his residence, and that was mentioned about himself, and then he did open up. And later on, he went on to speak about those same raids in after the town hall. So he keeps talking about the raids in his various election campaign that he's going for in various states. So CBI raids are forming a part of that election campaign. And as the narrative that Aam Aadmi Party is trying to say over there is that we are doing good work, and look, they are not letting us do good work because they are jealous of us, because they cannot compete with us on the front of work. The Aam Aadmi Party leaders are also, trying to push forth this narrative that it is because the BJP is actually scared of the rising popularity of Arvind Kejriwal, especially in the election council of Gujarat, that it has to face the onslaught of all these agencies. And this is not something that I'm saying of my own making. This is something that...
Okay. Rupashri, I'm afraid I'd have to interrupt you a bit there. We're getting some breaking news on the broadcast. This one is coming from the state of Karnataka. Let's take a look at that first. Now we're told that the Hubballi Eidgah Maidan issue has reached the High Court in the state. Now, Anjuman-e-Islam organization has now moved the Karnataka High Court, challenging the Hubballi Municipal Corporation decision to allow the celebration of Ganesh Chaturthi at the Eidgah Maidan. This case will be heard today afternoon. Remember, the plea is also before the Supreme Court, where the Waqf Board is all set to appear before the Apex Court, challenging the allowance of Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations at the Eidgah Maidan. And now there is the Anjuman-e-Islam organization, the AEI, that's also moved the Karnataka High Court, challenging the same. The Hubballi Eidgah grounds has been in news for quite some time now. Now we're told that there is another petition before the Karnataka High Court challenging the celebration of Ganesh Chaturthi festivities at the Eidgah Maidan. My colleague Harish, who's brought us all those inputs, is joining me on the broadcast. Harish, another petition, this time once again knocking at the doors of the High Court, all this while when the matter is all set to be possibly also taken up by the Apex Court of the country.
Well, there are two Eidgah Maidan issues in Karnataka that's currently on. One is the Eidgah Maidan from Chamrajpet here in Bengaluru, from where I'm joining you. This is likely to come up in the Supreme Court in a short while from now. Here, the demand is to allow Ganesh Chaturthi celebration. The petition that we're talking now is filed in the Hubli Dharwad bench of the Karnataka High Court, relates to the Eidgah Maidan in Hubli. Remember, yesterday the Hubli Dharwad Municipal Corporation allowed a few organizations there to carry out Ganesh Chaturthi celebration. That is being challenged by the Anjuman-e-Islam group, and they have approached the Dharwad bench of the Karnataka High Court. They are saying this shouldn't be allowed. The Supreme Court order earlier in the decade had made it very clear that only on 2 occasions can this ground be used for prayers. And but in this case, there is no issue about ownership. It's the Hubli Dharwad Municipal Corporation that owns the Hubli Eidgah Maidan. The demand now is to not allow any Ganesh Chaturthi celebration over there. This is now listed before the Dharwad bench of the Karnataka High Court at around 2:30 is when that hearing is likely to happen. So 2 crucial flashpoints, both of them before the court. One, the Hubli case before the High Court, the Eidgah Maidan of Bengaluru, that case before the Supreme Court, the challenge before the Karnataka government to ensure that law and order prevails, and irrespective of the orders that come in from the High Court and the Supreme Court, the peace in the area, both these areas, can be maintained.
Right, Harish, stay on with me. I'm also now joined on the broadcast by Mr. Mohan Krishna of the BJP. Mr. Krishna, now that this matter has been actually sought for hearing before the Karnataka High Court, there are 2 cases that we are talking about. While we are talking about the Eidgah Maidan in Chamrajpet already, we also now looking at a Hubli. What is it that, the Ganesh Chaturthi festivities, celebrations inside Eidgah Maidan is going to solve?
Eidgah Maidan is a place where the Hubli Municipal Corporation has allowed for the Ganesha festival. That's one thing. The second, Eidgah Maidan at Chamrajpet, government has allowed, High Court has given a direction, they have allowed it. From 31/8 onwards, for a short time, you can use it for festivity purposes. That is what they have said. In the both cases now, this is a case is over. And time and again, whenever the elections are around the corner, these political parties and the community which they want to please, they try to do all these kind of things. And they create an atmosphere in such a way that already the tension exists between us. Absolutely no. I request to the other community people also, when you are using it for your namaz and other purposes for so many years, just for 10 days, you should allow for Ganesha festival also.
Mr. Krishna, I'd like to ask you this. I'm just countering you here. I just wanted to understand why this insistence. Why is the state government or probably these organizations really insisting on the celebration of Ganesh Chaturthi in a Eidgah Maidan? That entire politics of instigation is also at play here. This is the big question.
Why you should think as an instigation in first instance? I will ask you.
Because it's being challenged,
the place
sir.
belongs to the. No. Please listen to me.
Yes.
Place belongs to the government, and government of the day can take the decision. And when there is people are urging, people want to celebrate there, you are keeping that for simply idly that playground. So now that can be used for festivity purposes. When it can be used for namaz, when it can be used for other issues.
Okay, Mr. Krishna, point taken. Let me take this across to Mr. Nasir Hussain of the Congress. I'll get you back on the broadcast, sir. Let me actually bring in Mr. Nasir Hussain of the Congress party. Mr. Hussain, you heard Mohan Krishna of the BJP respond to all that is happening in the state of Karnataka. We're talking about 2 Eidgah Maidans here. One matter is before the apex court of the country. The other one has now reached the Karnataka High Court. Your words now. Now that BJP is saying that some sort of a celebration should be reserved when it comes to the Ganesh Chaturthi festivities. There should not be any problem about it. How do you respond to it?
See, I earlier also on your television channel and other television channels have been saying this. See, the real intention is not to celebrate the festival there. The real intention is to create, instigate, provoke, and create divisions in the society. Hijab, halal, azan, now the Eidgah Maidans. Why is the government doing this? And why are all these organizations resorting to these kind of tactics? They know in another 5-6 months elections are there. They have failed the people of Karnataka for the past 3 years. They are definitely going to lose the election. Only way they can win the election is to polarize, to divide and defect. I don't know how any god will be happy if, I don't know if somebody uses a temple for namaz and a masjid for puja. How does that help the celebration? I don't know. How does the gods will be happy? That I don't know. Because these Maidans are used for namaz purposes from days immemorial, and this has been recorded as Waqf Board properties, whether it is Hubli, whether it is Chamrajpet, whether it is any part of the country. If people are happy of...
But Mr. Hussain, we're talking about India. India is known for its secular fabric. If at all a Maidan can be extended for Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations, how bad can it get?
I'll tell you, why, see, till now when they have not taken that, when it is a Waqf property, when it is a property belongs to the Waqf Board, when the government has given it for the purposes of namaz and it has been registered as Waqf property, does any Muslim go and lay a claim on Muzarai property? See, Muzarai department deals with all Hindu religious places and institutions. Waqf Board deals with Muslim religious institutions and places. Neither Waqf Board interferes in Muzarai department nor Muzarai into Waqf Board.
Okay.
This is clear case of
Mohan Krishna, respond. Interference is the big charge. Mohan Krishna.
Insecurity by the government. This is all government-backed instigations happening because they know they have to polarize to win the election.
Okay. Yes, Mohan Krishna, please respond.
Congress doesn't have a faith in anything except appeasement. That is first thing. Second thing, as Nasir Hussain is...
one by one, please. Mr. Hussain, I'll give you the time, please. Please. Mr. Hussain...
Appeasement is there in this.
Mr. Hussain, let Mohan Krishna respond. I'd have to bring your volumes down, please. Please don't talk together. Mohan Krishna, I have given the chance to Mr. Mohan Krishna. Let him make his point. Then, Mr. Hussain, you can respond.
He doesn't even know what records tell. He doesn't even know what records of Chamrajpet Eidgah and Hubli Eidgah say. He doesn't know what is the Parliament Act of Waqf Board and Parliament Act of Muzarai Department.
Okay.
They have given me chance to talk. I will talk to you.
Yes, Mr. Krishna, please.
I would like to make a point here. Congress has lost everything in the country and they have left with only appeasement politics. And for that matter, they have been thrown out of power in the center and in the state also. They have gone with the hands of the JDS and they have ruled this and ruined this state for 2 years. First initial 2 years of this assembly tenure. And now they are talking about BJP not doing anything. Okay. What is this, Nasir Hussain, you are talking?
Right.
What is that we have not done? We have developed, we have given metro, we have given...
All right, let's not digress. Let me actually take this across to my colleague Harish, who is also patiently standing by. Harish, the fact that now this matter is before the Karnataka High Court, the timing is also in question here. Why did AEI have to move the Karnataka High Court a day before the Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations when the go-ahead was given much before?
Well, Anjuman-e-Islam claims that earlier Supreme Court ruling made it very clear that the Hubli Eidgah Maidan can be given out for prayers on 2 occasions for the Muslim community. It doesn't talk about giving it to any other purpose as such. Yes, it could be used for public purpose. The claim here or the argument here is that it doesn't talk about giving it to any other religious celebration. There is no question about the ownership of this because that's a settled matter that it belongs to the Hubli Dharwad Municipal Corporation. It's a public property. But the organization here claims by allowing Ganesh Chaturthi celebration, the law and order in the Hubli region could be affected. One. Second, it goes against what the Supreme Court earlier in its judgment had clarified that it can be given only for 2 occasions for prayers for the Muslim community. It doesn't talk about any other occasion. So their claim is that this goes against the Supreme Court order. It could also perhaps disturb peace in the area. That's their argument. Has to be seen if the High Court bench of the Dharwad bench of the Karnataka High Court buys that argument, or would it say that this is the discretion of the Hubli-Dharwad Municipal Corporation? Since the corporation owns this ground, they could decide on who uses this ground, and it's a public property. And if the corporation believes that Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations at the ground is also for public purpose, then it could go in favor of the Hubli-Dharwad Municipal Corporation. So that is likely to be heard. Not too much time left in both these cases. Remember, both the organizers, whether it's Hubli or here in Chamrajpet in Bengaluru, both the organizers saying that they are geared up, and as soon as the court gives them a green signal, they will ensure that the celebrations happen tomorrow without any hitch. Now, in case of the Bengaluru Idgah Maidan issue, it's a larger one. The ownership is not a settled matter yet. Claims the Waqf Board. Remember, the Revenue Department claims it's their land. The Waqf Board says there are court orders and earlier communication between various government departments which make it clear that it's a Waqf property. So that will get resolved, or perhaps the court will hear that in the due course of time. But the Supreme Court today likely to pass an interim order on whether the government can use its discretion in allowing Ganesh Chaturthi celebration, or would the Supreme Court say that it deems that there could be a law and order problem and stop the government from giving any such permission.
Absolutely. Harish, thank you so much. All eyes thereby now on the apex court of the country and also the Karnataka High Court. Moving on to the next piece of breaking news that we are getting on the broadcast. Let's take a look at that. And this one is to do about the rumours that Shashi Tharoor might contest for the Congress president. Now, in response, Tharoor has put out a cryptic tweet, and I quote him here: "I do not just believe in reform, I believe in growth. I do not dare to dictate to our society. This way thou shouldn't move. I simply want to be like the squirrel in the building of Rama's bridge who was content to offer his little quota of sand dust." He's quoted Swami Vivekanand over here. Now, my colleague Pallavi will bring us more context to this cryptic tweet of Shashi Tharoor. Pallavi, over to you. Once again, something that's been tweeted by Shashi Tharoor, of course, talking about what? You'd have to actually take us through this.
Yes, I mean, it's a very cryptic tweet, and with the various ways you can interpret it, but immediately I would put it into context of what he wrote yesterday in a journal and his soundbite today, and what sources close to him have been asserting. Certainly his points that, you know, the Congress party should not look at itself as one where it chooses a president who belongs only to one particular family, where, you know, he throws up this speculation that is this a possibility that Shashi Tharoor himself may be contesting the elections. Look, this has been a demand of the G23 and many others, that there has to be a semblance of democracy. You have to have elections for a top post, and just about anybody should be allowed to contest and let the best man or woman win, whatever may be the case. I think Shashi Tharoor's tweet can be seen also in the context that is he trying to put it into perspective that it was just a suggestion. It does not insinuate much. It does not seem to be suggesting anything much, because, you know, his earlier comment through that journal also could throw up a lot of controversy surrounding him for daring to suggest that someone outside the family can also be a contender for the top job.
Also, Pallavi, the fact that he's saying I'm content with a little quota of sand dust, of course, quoting Swami Vivekanand over here. The fact that Shashi Tharoor is a possible contender, however, he doesn't have much mass following. That's something that seems to be going against him.
Well, I mean, he's won thrice over from Thiruvananthapuram, but that may be a different case when it comes within the party. See, several considerations will have to be kept in mind.
Right.
Someone who's able to keep the party together, someone who also is sometimes who can appeal to the Hindi heartland. If you use those credentials, it may be tough for Shashi Tharoor. But the rider and a caveat over here repeatedly is the fact that those who are close to him are saying that no decision has been taken, and his article does not mean that he's actually going to be contesting the elections, but one cannot yet lose out the probability of him also putting in his nomination papers.
Right, Pallavi, thank you so much. Let's quickly move on to the next piece of breaking news that we are getting on the broadcast now. There are protests against the Mysore Sia of the Chitra Durga Mati in Karnataka. Dalit protesters now demand justice and the arrest of the Sia immediately. This is what we're bringing to you, the latest from Karnataka. In fact, let's quickly take a look at this piece of report that my colleague Ritu has filed for us.
As POCSO case has been registered against the seer here in the Chitradurga, you can see the Dalit community people are here protesting right in front of the child development office. In the visual, you can see them all being seated here for a dharna and are being demanding for a justice, and they're asking for an immediate arrest of the seer. Meanwhile, you can see on the left hand side of mine, the police is also trying to convince these protesters, saying that the investigation in the matter is on and you don't have to sit and do this dharna, as this is a very sensitive incident and a case has to be considered in a very sensitive manner. Thus, do not sit here for a dharna. Yesterday too, they were sitting here for a dharna and were demanding for a regular justice and immediate arrest of the seer. The kind of an attempt that has been made from the police here, but meanwhile, you see the Dalit community people over here being seated here.
And my colleague Ritu joins me on the broadcast. Ritu, first of all, take us through the situation over there. We just managed to get a sense of it through that report that you'd filed for us. But the demand and the clamour for the arrest of the seer is only growing.
Yes, so you see the Dalit community people are protesting. They have been asking that immediately the seer must be arrested. It's already been 4 days that the FIR was being registered, and why is there no action coming in from the police, and why is state government not taking this issue very seriously? If it was someone else, then the matter or the incident today would have turned out to be very much different. There would have been immediate actions, and by now there would have been huge developments in the story that we would have got to witness. But meanwhile, in this specific story, why is that the incident is being dragged? Why is there no immediate action? Is the kind of demand that these protesters are making. But this is not the first protest that they have made. But yes, they have started their protest since yesterday, and it is still on. Now too, they have been on a dharna. They are regularly, in fact, demanding the police that immediate action and immediate arrest of the seer is their only primary demand from the police. But of course, with all this turning out, there is a huge developments that we're getting to see. But the only thing that is lacking here is an action coming in from the police of why exactly the seer is not being arrested, because in such kind of sensitive issues, we have usually got to see immediate developments, immediate actions pouring in from the police. But why is that nothing taking place in this specific matter? Is there because of a kind of influence or the high game that has been played in this whole incident? Is the kind of question that has been raised here.
Ritu, the fact that the Dalit community has now decided to come onto the streets and protest, is this going to add to the pressure of the government in the state? Because clearly the detention happened, but nothing has been done despite that FIR, like you just pointed out.
See, the pressure on the state government has already been mounted, because we also saw how activists have started writing letter to the governor asking for an immediate arrest. But in fact, we have also seen the MP also writing a letter in this specific incident and has been asking that this is a very sensitive issue and thus an immediate action has been required. With all that too, on the political side, we're getting to see a mixed reaction pouring in, where you see few leaders are backing the seer, openly saying that this particular community has done enough for the development of the society and thus is happening to continue their service as. So they have seen their noble work, and thus this is all to the investigation to take their own course of action. But on the other side, there is a pressure that has been mounted on the state government to take immediate action, because of course it's a matter of minor girls that we are talking about, and there has to be an immediate action. Why is there a delay in it? Because it's already been 4 days that the FIR has been registered. The girls had to move all the way from Chitradurga to Bengaluru, and there they tried seeking help of the police from the Cottonpet police station, and when they found no helping hand pouring in from there, because that does not come under the limits of them, the police then tried to move these girls to other place, and these girls try and reach out to an NGO in the Mysuru, and that's where under the district collector's in his leadership, the case, in fact the FIR was being registered, and then the case was being transferred to the Chitradurga rural police. But you see, we also saw how medical test of the girls has been conducted. The statement have been recorded for almost 5 hours. But why is all that action that has been seen on one side with the minor girls, why is there not even a single action coming in from the police when we're talking about the seer's part? And in fact, the Mahazar process that went on for almost 3 hours at the mart, what exactly had happened over there? Why is that the investigation process taking place in the presence of the seer, where the CWC and the police takes this investigation investigation at the mud, and you see the seer being present in the other side of the mud. But exactly the accused was present at the mud premises, and this process took place. So there's a huge big question that has been raised against the police and the state government here.
Right. Ritu, stay on with me. We are also now breaking this particular input on the broadcast that BJP MLA T. Reddy has now met with the seer. So this entire argument that the seer is being protected by the government in the state is really going on and continuing, because we had seen ample brazening it out by the seer, where he's saying that he has that kind of clamour, that clout, which is why he was released from the detention. Ritu, now this particular meeting of T. Reddy with the seer will be very, very significant.
Yes, you see now the BJP MLA in fact have met the seer, and yes, he is a sitting MLA from this particular constituency. In fact, he's been an MLA for a very long time, almost 6-7 times. So he is also very well known in this and also has a very close connection with the seer. So he too, you see, can be reiterating the same sentence that we're getting to see coming in from the other politicians, where this MLA is also saying that the investigation is on, and the the investigation will take its own course, and the law and order situation on one side has to be maintained, and thus because this is a very sensitive issue, cannot comment on this. But that's a clear kind of a picture that we're seeing on a side that a few leaders are backing the seer. On the other side, there's hardly any leader who had spoken for these minor girls.
Right, absolutely. And what word does it send out? Because here we're talking about 2 minor girls who have claimed sexual harassment, sexual assault by the seer, and the government in the state, the representatives of that very government go ahead and meet him. Now, that's something that needs to be answered. Now, Ritu, in your report, we'd also seen the police really trying to go ahead and ask the protesters to calm down. Is there a word that has come in officially or unofficially from the police on why are they not being able to arrest the seer yet?
So the one word that is coming in from the police is that they say it's a very complicated case and the investigation in the matter is on. It is to the investigative officers to take up their kind of an action and put out their views. But of course, police, as on the other side, you can see how they are trying to pacify these protesters, saying that the investigation is on, and thus this kind of a protest will only create a problem in this process, but will nowhere bring the solution.
Ritu,
but
stay on with me. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. I'm also now joined on the broadcast by Mr. Shankara Guha of the Congress Party. Mr. Guha, thank you so much for being a part of this broadcast on CNN News 18. The latest in the case of the Karnataka seer is that a representative of the government in the state, and in this case a BJP MLA T. Reddy, has now gone on and met with the seer. Your first reactions on that?
No, I don't see anything wrong in somebody meeting him. He is free to meet him, but the government has to decide on what way they are going. It's a very sensitive matter. I hope that they take swift actions and start the process, whatever is there.
Also, what do you have to say about the protest now that the Dalit community is on the streets protesting, demanding an arrest? The detention was made yesterday. However, he was very soon released from detention. No arrest yet.
I wouldn't want to comment on somebody's protest. I think protesting is of no use here. They should allow the government, and this year he has been extremely cooperative as far as what we have seen. And as I said yesterday, let the law of the land take its action. Nobody is above, nobody is below the law of the land.
Mr. Guha, what would you say about the 2 girls who claim to be sexually assaulted by the seer?
I have made my view on them very clear yesterday as well. Their safety and their security is also of equal concern to us as much as we are with the mutt and the devotees.
You know what, Mr. Guha, the fact that the Congress party, I mean, you represent the Congress and the opposition in the state is claiming that the government in the state is really not doing anything. But you yourself are not trying to say anything which is probably playing it safe. That's the argument that's coming in from the other side.
No, let me tell you, this particular mutt has a huge base, and it is an extremely important religious institution. Now, religion worldwide is based on faith. This has been observed in the courts as well. So when there is a question of faith, I don't think we should interfere with that. And the administration is not the government.
We are not questioning anything to do with faith here. The whole idea, sir, is that there were two girls who were part of this hostel in Karnataka mud. They claim to be sexually assaulted, not for just a short while. This is 3.5 years that we're talking about.
Yes, exactly. The government has to decide what they have to do. This is, as I said, this is a very sensitive matter at both ends. On one end, we have two young children, and at the other end, we have a very important religious man. Both are important to our society.
Okay. All right, Mr. Gua, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll go back to my colleague Ritu, who's actually standing by from Chitradurga. Ritu, just the situation on the ground, we heard a member of the Congress party refraining from making any sort of comment when it comes to either the seer or this entire case of alleged sexual assault. However, the protests on ground tell a different story.
In fact, that's not the one leader who had in fact tried to silent on this whole incident. We have also seen the big leaders to being silent, and they're only telling that the investigation is on and it is to the officers to take an action. So why is this kind of a silence that we're getting to see? Is it because of that the MUT is very powerful and has an influence and has a very significant role to play when it comes to the elections? Of course, yes, because we have also seen previously too how whether women, you take any top leader's name and they have been to this particular MUT, they have also met this year. The last one to meet was also the Rahul Gandhi. In fact, when he was here in Karnataka for a visit, he also took Ishtalinga from this particular seer only. So you see, but of course, we have also seen from the BJP leader, whether it is Amit Shah or JP Nadda to Yediyurappa to, so all these prominent leaders have been seen at the MUT premises, have met this year. So that's the kind of a big role that this MUT plays in the Karnataka.
Ritu, let me quickly take this to Ms. Pramila Nisargi of the BJP, who's also joining me on the broadcast. Ms. Nisargi, protests on ground demanding an arrest of the seer. However, no arrest has been made yet. Of course, there is pressure on the government in the state.
There is no pressure whatsoever.
Okay.
Police have been doing their own duty. You know, under Section 41A of the Criminal Procedure Code, notice has to be issued. That also they have done. They have to make an inquiry in here. They are doing it in accordance with law, with the letter and spirit. No violation whatsoever. See, in accordance with law, the case has been registered in Nazarabad police station in Mysore. Thereafter, because of the jurisdiction, case was transferred to Chitradurga. After transfer, the statements of the girls, you know, they have been already recorded. They have been subjected to medical examination. Thereafter, the statements have been recorded. Today, they are going to record 164 statements. There is no disturbance whatsoever. This part master has also been done in accordance with law. What is there? There is nothing for influencing, and police have been doing their duty in accordance with the law. What is the mistake they have done? Well, law requires in a POCSO case under Section 41A notice has to be issued, and the notice has already been issued. And the inquiry is done. There are two complaints. One is about this girl's complaint. Another complaint brought by the warden of the hostel against the one Basavarajaya, stating that he had kidnapped these girls. That matter is also simultaneously inquiry has to be done. Whether these girls were kidnapped, and if so, who had kept them in the captivation. Everything is white and black.
All right.
Nothing has been done.
All right. So, Ms. Nisargi, you are saying that law is taking its course. We'll have to see where does it progress from now. But ground reality is that there are ample protests happening on ground in Chitradurga itself, demanding an arrest of the seer. Leaving it at that, moving in to some next piece of breaking news that we are getting. This one is coming from the state of Tamil Nadu. And we're getting more inputs on the J. Jayalalitha debt controversy. Now there's been a reaction from the AIADMK. In fact, senior AIADMK leader D. Jayakumar has said that OPS was the first one to raise a suspicion over Amma's death. And now he himself has said that he does not doubt anything. He goes on to say that unless we get the report officially, we can't comment. And he also says that the way the government has leaked the report shows that the government is weak. He's talking about the DMK government in the state of Tamil Nadu. And when asked if he personally has doubts about the death of J. Jayalalitha, he says that for that only they are wanting the commission to probe. My colleague Purnima joins me on the broadcast for more. Purnima, the word there from AIADMK. However, they are questioning the DMK government, claiming that they have released the report unofficially.
Absolutely. In fact, D. Jayakumar, senior ADMK leader, also a loyalist of Edapadi Palanisami's camp, maintains that they will not make a comment or react to a select leak from the government, because yesterday after the cabinet meeting, an official press release by the DMK government said that the Arumugasamy Commission that was set up 5 years ago to probe the treatment meted out to J. Jayalalitha and in turn leading to her death, inquiry against V.K. Sasikla and former health minister among others should be conducted, for which the DMK said that they will seek legal opinion from experts before taking a final call. However, the report is not made official, and therefore ADMK maintains that till the 567-page report is made available to them, they will not react. However, when asked if he personally believes that there could be any foul play in the treatment of J. Jayalalitha, he says that the commission was set up to probe that and that he will not react further. So those were the first comments that we got from the ADMK, from the Edapadi camp, even as the other senior leaders have so far maintained silence on this issue, saying that it shows the government's weakness because they are only leaking a select portion to get political mileage.
Right. Purnima, the fact that when AIMS has come out with a report and they have actually cleared any sort of conspiracy theory, they are saying that the death was a natural one, the DMK government is still going about when it comes to the probe. On what grounds are they doing it? Because here they are actually trying to go ahead and get people like Sasikala in question. There are 3 other people who are being claimed that they should be probed in this particular matter.
Well, before the state assembly polls, M.K. Stalin, while on a campaign across the state, had in fact promised the people of Tamil Nadu that his first step after he comes to power, and if he comes to power, is to ensure that there is a fair and thorough probe into the treatment given to J. Jayalalitha before she died. So that was one of the campaign strategies that the DMK had followed. And even after the Arumugasamy Commission, while the entire report is not out, the Tamil Nadu government has only in fact released one portion of it, which says that inquiry against V.K. Sasikla, former health minister and also an EPS loyalist Vijay Bhaskar, former chief secretary Ram Mohan Rao and Sasikala's son-in-law, all the 4 should be questioned among many others. That's something that the commission had said in its report, but the entire report is not made available. However, the ADMK says is trying to use this as a political mileage. And when we spoke to Sasikala's camp, sources from the Sasikala camp, they said that the commission in the first place wanted to point fingers at V.K. Sasikala. Things like why were the CCTV cameras off when Jayalalitha was taken to Apollo, all those still remain unanswered, even as AIMS had given a clean chit to Apollo and the treatment given to her. There are certain questions that still remain unanswered, including CCTV cameras being switched off when Jayalalitha was taken to Apollo. All those are the loopholes that the commission could have in fact highlighted in the report, is what the Sasikala camp maintains. Those were on the expected lines, is what we are hearing from the Sasikala camp at this point in time.
So Purnima, is it safe to say, going by this argument of D. Jayakumar also, that the DMK government in the state is trying to keep a matter alive, even though it might just be long dead because of the probe that's come out by AIMS? Because here, while going ahead and attacking the Stalin government, Jayakumar also refrains from commenting on the entire controversy.
Absolutely. Jayakumar also, while speaking to CNN News 18 a short while ago, said that it was O. Pannirselvam who raised suspicion over the death of J. Jayalalitha in the first place. And when he appeared before the Arumugasamy Commission, and after that he met the media and made it clear that he personally does not have doubts and he trusts V.K. Sasikala, who was with Jayalalitha during the entire process. And he in fact made a U-turn, saying that he does not raise any doubts over the treatment given to Jayalalitha. So D. Jayakumar also added that while speaking a short while ago, and said that the commission was formed to probe the case. And why is the entire report not out? Why is the government giving only a select, or why is the government leaking only 1 or 2 points from the entire report, for which they really have to read the entire report before making their comments? That's what the ADMK says. But DMK wanting to keep this alive, which is why after the cabinet meeting they in fact released it through an official press release, and that the ADMK says is a political mileage and a way the DMK wants to continue to keep this topic alive going forward as well.
All right, Purnima, thank you so much. Let me take this across to A.V. Narayanan of the Congress Party. Mr. Narayanan, a word there from AIADMK leader Mr. Jay Kumar, who claims that OPS was the first person who had claimed suspicion on the death of J. Jayalalitha. Now, he also goes on to say that the DMK government has surreptitiously released a portion of the report that has not yet been officially released. Your first reactions on that, sir?
Well, first thing is, most of these commissions are really helping in every state, including Tamil Nadu, in the past, present, and in the future also, whether it's the central government or state government. They kind of pander, even though it's supposedly a fact-finding Supreme Court or High Court judges, they pander to the person who has appointed to them. Leaving that aside, I think taking only a portion and leaking it, I think, looking at it very, objectively, I think the whole thing has to be publicized. In the past, not only DMK, but other governments also had consistently not publicized or placed it in the assembly. They should. And, I think this has been the standard practice of every government to leak what is useful and put the rest of the commission, or don't even make it public. When it is a public money which has gone into these commissions, I think they owe it to the public to show what the commission has found in total. So I will reserve my comments until the whole thing comes out. However, I agree with Jay Kumar that the whole report should come out.
Okay. All right. Let me also bring in Mr. S.G. Surya of the BJP. Mr. Surya, AIADMK has claimed the selective leaking of report as foul play. How do you react to that?
See, honestly, we kind of toe the same line. We do not have any details, not even a summary, nothing is out yet. So it looks like there is some selective foul play or leakage from the ruling party side. Therefore, we do not have any comments to make at this point of time. Probably once the report is out, we'll be having an official stand about that. But for now, absolutely there is no stand. But we also request the state government not to play any foul play in this sensitive issue.
Well, Mr. Surya, the fact that AIMS had already come out with a report, they had negated any sort of conspiracy theory when it comes to J. Jayalalitha's death. Don't you think that the matter can possibly be laid to rest over here and let that report be coming out officially rather than the selective leaking, which is what is being alleged at the moment?
Yes, you see, they have been doing foul play for a long now. Ever since the government had the DMK government has come into place now, they are trying to use it to score some political brownie points. So that is very clear from day one. So even now, if you see the conduct, there is selective leakage and there is no transparency. There is not even a summary that is presented before the people. But before coming to power, they said they will initiate the inquiry and complete it within 100 days. But now there have been 16 months since they have come to government, but there is no development in that. So we think they are just dragging it to score some political brownie points, nothing more than that.
All right. Kovai Satyan of the AIADMK also joins me on the broadcast. Mr. Satyan, we had reactions from the Congress and the BJP. However, it's your own leader that has claimed foul play when it comes to this alleged selective leaking of the report even before it has been officially put out. Now, do you agree? And also the fact that OPS was also claimed to have questioned this entire controversy on J. Jayalalitha's death, and he was the one who had raised suspicion on her death. Do you agree with this entire point that Mr. Jayakumar is making?
Yeah, indeed it was Mr. OPS, O. Paneerselvam, who staged Dharma Yuddham, and one of the demand was to constitute a commission to look into the untimely demise of Amma Jayalalitha. So based on his demand, this commission was formed. And the reasons that led to the hospitalization needs to be proved was one of the demands. It's not the treatment at Apollo alone. So I think the commission has done justice with respect to the treatment with Apollo. But still there are areas and rooms which needs an answer. So the beneficiary of this, entire beneficiary of this is Mr. OPS, and everybody knows, the world knows how he turned hostile during the time of the commission's inquiry, favoring Shashikala. I think the biggest beneficiary is Mr. OPS.
Okay. And now that Sasikala and 3 others, their names are appearing as far as the government is concerned when they go ahead and allegedly release that part of the statement that's not yet out. A word on that as well, sir.
Yeah, any commission, the report has to be submitted to the Chief Minister and he has to table it in the Assembly. But unfortunately, in DMK regime, a majority of the findings of the commission is being given to selective medias. And here in TN, there are many medias who are doing a media trial on the same, which is very unfortunate.
Okay. All right, I'll leave it at that.
Let's wait for it to be tabled in the Assembly and see the next course of action.
All right, Mr. Thattan, thank you so much. And thank you so much, Mr. Surya, for joining us on the broadcast, and also Mr. Narayanan of the Congress Party. Let's now listen into exactly what the AIADMK leader, Mr. Jayakumar, had said. This is an interview excerpt which my colleague Purnima did with him. Let's take a look at that.
With, the EPS, OPS factions. So EPS camp and OPS camp, they continue to fight. Do you think you will eventually welcome O. Pannirselvam? Will all of you unite eventually?
No. See, he has done a lot of mistakes. See, basically, so he met actually TTV previously. And also some suspicious regarding Amma's death. So he only raised for that inquiry and Dharmayutam. So, but what he said, no, actually, no no suspicion Amma's death, and I am having respect with Sasikala. His son actually meeting Chief Minister, so that we can actually narrate so many things, anti-party activities, that is ADMK anti-party activities by OPS. So how can we accept?
Do you think O. Pannirselvam, VK Sasikala, TTV Dinakaran will eventually join hands? Are they all together on one side, sir?
No, they will join with OPS, not with us.
Sir, yesterday, the Tamil Nadu cabinet said in a press release that Arumugasamy Commission wants enquiry against VK Sasikala, Sasikala's son-in-law Dr. Shiv Kumar, former Health Minister Vijay Bhaskar. How does the EPS camp and ADMK react to the
See, for that question, no, federal official report published by the government only, I can give any comment on that, remarks on that. Not this is a still premature stage. But one thing, no. What the subject placed in the cabinet, that been leaked out, no. That all shows that the government is very weak.
And sir, personally, you've been a senior leader. You've been someone who's been monitoring J. Jayalalitha. Do you suspect any foul play as far as the treatment of Jayalalitha was concerned? Personally, as a senior leader, as someone who's been working with Jayalalitha.
For that only we constitute commission. That commission, what actually the report is, no. Based on that, no, we will the comments.
It started with O. Pannirselvam, who raised doubts before the merger, but now he himself says that he personally does not have any doubts. So, do you still think that this commission probe matters?
No. See, 2 questions you are asking for actually regarding OPS. No, that I have given the answer earlier. So, regarding OPS, I have given the answer earlier. But second question, no, raised by you, that only after publishing the reports.
Thank you, sir.
All right, going back to Karnataka, we're getting some more breaking news now. We told you earlier how the BJP MLA T. Reddy had gone on to meet the Lingayat seer. Now he is come out to defend the seer. He has said that investigation is currently on in the matter and let law take its own course. In fact, he goes on to say that the seer is saying that he has been going through a lot of trouble because of this case, and he also says the Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai has said that the investigation will take its own course. Further says that the seer is going to be cooperating with the police, and also adds that he is terribly hurt by all that is happening. This seems to be a word that the BJP MLA T. Reddy is come out and said he seems to be acting like the mouthpiece, if it's safe to say, of the Lingayat seer in this particular case. Remember, he met him a short while back. He comes out defending the seer in the matter. Now, he says that the seer is of the opinion that let law take its own course. In fact, he also says that the seer is terribly disturbed with all that is happening in the matter. We will try and get a sense of what exactly is he saying. Let's take a look at what Tippa Reddy is saying.
If they want to arrest him,
I don't know. It is there. See, in this democratic country, everybody has got protesting and this thing. Their protest is left to them. Nothing is wrong in that. Nothing is wrong in that.
nothing is wrong in
Yeah,
that.
protest.
But why you they apply the anticipatory bail?
I don't know. See, you have to ask Swamiji. You have to ask Swamiji why they have applied and other things. You have to ask. You have to ask.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello. I get it, sir. I will send it 1 minute. I get it. Bye. Okay.
My colleague Ritu joins me for more. Ritu, why is it that the BJP MLA is trying to downplay this entire incident? Because, come to think of it, here we're talking about a seer, a godman who has been accused under POCSO.
Yes, so you see that's not just one leader that we're getting to see how he's defending the seer, but there are so many leaders, in fact the top leaders too, openly defending the seer and the mutt, saying that the mutt has continued to do a good service for the people here and have served a lot of people, and thus this is under scanner unnecessarily. But of course it is all to the investigation and to the officers to take up their own steps in this whole matter. So that's the kind of the reaction that we're getting to see. You name it any party, and this is the single line that you will get to listen from all the leaders, whether it's BJP, whether it is Congress, or for that matter the JDS. So that's all the parties reacting to the same line, that the investigation will take its own course.
Yes.
But of course there have been major questions that have been raised over here against the police, as why there's not an action pouring in when there's been an FIR that has been registered for almost 4 days now. So that's the kind of question that is raised against the police and of course against the state government too. Why is that the state government too fearing the mutt and the seer? Is that because this particular mutt plays a significant role ahead of the elections?
Also, Ritu, the body language of the seer, because here we also know that he has gone on to continuously brazen it out, and we have it on record, on camera. In fact, he goes ahead and makes statements that because of the cloud that he commands is why this matter is going to take its own course. That's also something that cannot be discounted.
Yes, you pointed out very much right over there. You see the seer as well, while addressing his devotees yesterday when he returned back to the mutt. He also said that this is a conspiracy that has been played against him and the mutt, and this is not something new for him, but in fact from past 15 years he's getting to see this kind of a conspiracy being played against him. So thus he says he will cooperate with the police and will ensure that he is being smoothly taken up in this whole investigation. But of course you see the MLA also speaking about it. In fact, Tippa Reddy is also saying that he spoke to the seer, and the seer had also in fact expressed his kind of a sorrow to the MLA. He's saying that he's also going through a trouble, and this is clearly a game that has been played against him. But of course the investigation is on in this whole, and this is to the investigation to reveal what exactly is the foul game behind this.
Right, Ritu, thank you so much. We'll continue to track all the developments that Ritu is bringing to us from Chitradurga. Meanwhile, slipping into some more breaking news that we're getting on CNN News 18. Now, Anna Hazare seems to have written a letter to Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. Now, he, in fact, goes on to ask the Delhi CM to stop issuing licenses to alcohol shops. So, a letter there to Arvind Kejriwal by Anna Hazare. Now, he has waded into this entire Liquorgate saga. He goes on to write to the Delhi Chief Minister, the Aam Aadmi Party chief Arvind Kejriwal, and he has said in that letter that please don't go ahead and issue licenses to alcohol shops. So Anna Hazare back into the discourse. My colleague Maria Shakil now joins me on the broadcast. Yes, Maria, Anna Hazare back into the discourse, seems to have written a letter to the Delhi Chief Minister. Just take us through the contents of this letter.
So he has written in the context of the Delhi liquor policy and the liquor scam that we are looking at, the excise policy which has drawn much criticism. अन्ना हजारे साहब ने स्वराज नाम की इस किताब आदर्श बातें लिखी थी.
Right. Maria, there seems to be a problem with the audio link with Maria. We'll try and fix that for you. But this is the latest that we're bringing. Like Maria was mentioning, this entire Liquorgate saga only continues to grow. Now, the person who was at the center of it all when it comes to that entire Lokpal debate, Anna Hazare movement, was something that Arvind Kejriwal was part of, and that's where that entire emanation of Aam Aadmi Party started. Now, he has gone on to write to the Delhi Chief Minister, Arvind Kejriwal, and he has asked him to stop issuing licenses to the alcohol shop. Maria is back with me on the broadcast. Yes, Maria, you were saying.
Yes, so he says, आपने स्वराज नाम की इस किताब में कितनी आदर्श बातें लिखी थी, तब आपसे बड़ी उम्मीद थी, लेकिन राजनीति में जाकर मुख्यमंत्री बनने के बाद आप आदर्श विचारधारा को भूल गए हैं, ऐसा लगता है। इसलिए दिल्ली राज्य में आपकी सरकार ने नई शराब नीति बनाई। So he is scathing in his criticism, essentially reminding Arvind Kejriwal of how this entire movement that led to his arrival on Indian politics, which was through India Against Corruption movement, which was led by Anna Hazare. Now Anna Hazare in a scathing letter has written to Arvind Kejriwal, reminding him of what he stood for and how he has forgotten everything. He goes on to say that you have forgotten the vichardhara, essentially the principles and the ideals with which you entered politics, and now it is pure politics and your government which is driving you.
Also, Maria, once again, this entire fault line fissures between Anna Hazare and Arvind Kejriwal, once again, that's coming to fore because of this letter.
It says, भ्रष्टाचार मुक्त भारत के लिए ऐतिहासिक लोकपाल और लोकायुक्त आंदोलन हुआ। लाखों की संख्या में लोगों ने उसमें शामिल हुए। मैं ये पत्र इसलिए लिख रहा हूँ क्योंकि हमने पहले गांव में शराब को बंद किया, फिर महाराष्ट्र में शराब को बंद किया. So he himself has led this movement to stop alcohol and the entire movement against alcohol. And now Anna Hazare reminding Arvind Kejriwal that you have forgotten the principles with which you arrived on the political scene, you arrived on the governance front, and now it seems that only pure politics and pure government, the satta as he calls it, is the one that is driving you.
Maria, when it comes to this letter, so to speak, if we talk about the merit of whatever has been written in this letter by Anna Hazare to Arvind Kejriwal, looking at the excise policy and this entire Liquorgate saga, how well will it stand?
Look, it is a scathing criticism, and coming as it does from the one who was leading the entire India Against Corruption movement, this will mean that the Aam Aadmi Party will have much to defend. So far, they have managed to completely sidetrack the issue whenever the questions are related to excise policy that are asked. The Aam Aadmi Party's response is that they withdrew the policy. They went for rollback of the policy because they understood that the merits of the policy and the implementation had teething issues. They also go on to say that this is some kind of larger vendetta or witch hunt. But here Anna Hazare raising questions related to liquor policy and saying that perhaps in the love for government, in the love for power, you forgot what you stood for, you forgot what the ideals were, you forgot what Lokayukt and Lokpal movement were.
के दिन जब सीबीआई की रेड की गई थी तो उस दिन मेरे घर से मेरी पत्नी के लॉकर की चाबी ले गए थे, जिसका लॉकर यहाँ है। आज सीबीआई उस लॉकर को खोलने आई थी, उसकी जांच करने आई थी। उन्होंने हमें भी बुलाया था। लॉकर में भी जैसे मेरे घर में कुछ नहीं मिला, वैसे ही लॉकर में भी कुछ नहीं निकला। मुश्किल से 70-80 हज़ार रुपए के कुछ बच्चों के, कुछ मेरी पत्नी के ज्वेलरी वगैरह कुछ इस तरह की चीजें हैं। मुझे बहुत खुशी है इस बात की कि प्रधानमंत्री जी ने मेरे घर पे रेड करा दी। प्रधानमंत्री जी ने मेरे घर की पूरी छानबीन करा के, तलाशी करा दी, वहां से भी कुछ नहीं निकला। आज प्रधानमंत्री जी ने सीबीआई भेज के मेरे लॉकर की जांच भी करा ली, उसमें से भी कुछ नहीं निकला। यही इस बात का सबूत है कि आज प्रधानमंत्री जी की सारी जांच में मैं और मेरा परिवार पाक साफ निकले हैं। प्रधानमंत्री जी की पूरी सारी जांच में एकदम क्लीन चिट है। कहीं कुछ ऐसा चीज नहीं है जिसको ये कह सके ये क्यों है, ये क्या है, ये कैसे है। कहीं एक पैसे का क्वेश्चनेबल कुछ नहीं है। तो मुझे अपनी सच्चाई पे भरोसा है, मुझे ईश्वर पे भरोसा है कि सच्चाई का साथ देके कोई दिक्कत नहीं होगी। सीबीआई ने आज भी, जैसे मैंने पहले भी कहा था, सीबीआई के सभी ऑफिसर्स ने आज बहुत अच्छे से व्यवहार किया मेरे साथ, मेरे परिवार के साथ में, और हमने भी पूरा कोऑपरेट किया। मैं जानता हूँ ये भी लोग अनऑफिशियली तो मानते हैं कि सब संतुष्ट हैं, कुछ नहीं है, लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं इनके ऊपर भी दबाव है कि भाई कुछ भी निकालो, कुछ भी करो, लेकिन 2-3 महीने के लिए तो इसको जेल में डालो। प्रधानमंत्री जी का ऊपर से बहुत दबाव है इस बात के लिए कि किसी तरह से मनीष सिसोदिया को 2-3 महीने के लिए जेल में डालो। तो वो ये करेंगे किसी समय पे आने पे, वो इनकी अपनी राजनीति को है। लेकिन मुझे खुशी है कि आज सीबीआई जांच में मुझे पूरी तरह से क्लीन चिट है। मेरे घर से कुछ नहीं निकला, मेरे लॉकर से कुछ नहीं निकला, और कोई एक पैसे का लेन देन नहीं, कोई एक पैसे की हेराफेरी नहीं, कुछ नहीं। तो अंत में सच की जीत होती है, सच की जीत हुई। थैंक यू।
Well, that was Delhi Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia there speaking to the media. He's given himself a clean sheet, saying the CBI found nothing when they raided my residence, and today, even when they searched our lockers, nothing really was found. He's also gone on to say that me and my family cooperated as far as the officials were concerned. Let me bring in my colleague Siddhant, who's been tracking all these developments for us. Siddhant, even though Manish Sisodia has maintained his innocence, the narrative from the Aam Aadmi Party has been this is vendetta politics and misuse of agencies. Just bring our viewers up to speed of what really happened as far as the bank locker is concerned.
Look, right now we are at PNB Bank branch in Ghaziabad, and first let's give a sense to viewers. So this is a branch, and in fact, CBI teams are leaving after visiting the bank branch with Manish Sisodia, and now Manish Sisodia was also along here along with the CBI teams. So when we speak to CBI officials, they tell us that there are two specific transactions that they are looking at this point in time, and these two transactions were made from the accounts of alleged liquor barons to the accounts of people close to Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi, Manish Sisodia. And in fact, those close aides of Manish Sisodia have been named in an FIR that has been filed by Central Bureau of Investigation. So, in this regard only, his premises were also searched, and today this request was made by Central Bureau of Investigation to Manish Sisodia to come and open his personal bank account, which is in this PNB Bank branch in Vasundhara. Manish Sisodia was here along with the CBI teams. Right after the process gets over, Manish Sisodia comes out and issues a statement saying that CBI has again not found anything in my locker, and the same way there was nothing which was found at my premises. Manish Sisodia has to say that he is clean. There is no quid pro quo involved in the new excise policy which was formed and implemented by Aam Aadmi Party government, and it is nothing but a political witch hunt. CBI investigation is going on. When we ask CBI officials, then Manish Sisodia is saying that there is nothing which was found, there is nothing which was in fact seized from his residence. CBI officials has to say that CBI's investigation is going ahead in a very strategic manner. They cannot divulge all the details in a single go. They have sufficient evidence to prove that money was paid by liquor barons, money was transferred from the account of liquor barons to the account of close aides of Manish Sisodia, and also to the accounts of some of the civil servants. So this is what Central Bureau of Investigation is saying. They are still investigating the matter. The statements are being recorded. LOCs have already been issued, and they say that once investigation will be concluded, they will be able to establish the link.
Okay, Siddhant, thanks for getting us that quick update. There we heard from the Delhi Deputy Chief Minister giving himself a clean sheet. This after the CBI also wanted to take a look at his locker in Vasundhara. We're now shifting our focus to some other developments coming in. Now, this is as far as the Eidgah Maidan row is concerned, to maintain law and order situation, heavy police force is now being deployed at the Eidgah Maidan. This comes after the state government has given nod to celebrate Ganesh Chaturthi at this Maidan. The Supreme Court, remember, will also be hearing this matter at about 3 in the afternoon. But the cops there conducting a flag march, they're trying to contain the law and order situation, and heavy police deployment now can be seen outside the Eidgah Maidan. Look at the visuals that we're putting out on our screens. My colleague Harish Upadhyay, who's been tracking all these developments, now joining us live on the broadcast from the Eidgah Maidan. Harish, before we get into the politics and the ownership row, just give us a sense, and to our viewers as well, as far as the security deployment is concerned.
Well, around 1,500 personnel deployed for this. This includes personnel from the Rapid Action Force, from the District SWAT team. We also have around 1,300 people from the Bengaluru City Police, and they have taken part in the route march now. Depending on how the Supreme Court order goes, there could be a reduction in deployment or increase in deployment, and any further restriction is what the police tell us. But today's route march largely focusing on sending a message to the residents that there will be no law and order issue, and also sending a message to anyone who wants to disrupt peace in the area that they will be dealt in a stringent manner, and there will be force on the ground, and nobody can think of disrupting law and order in the area. That's what the Bengaluru police have done now. A lot depends on the Supreme Court order and how the government wants to go ahead after that. In case the court discretion of the state government to decide on application seeking permission for celebration of Ganesh Chaturthi at the Eidgah Maidan in Chamrajpet, then the police will have to make arrangements accordingly. At the same time, state government will put in some sort of a restriction and conditions for the organizers on how they can go about celebrating there. If the Supreme Court doesn't allow the celebration, keeping law and order in mind, then once again they will have to ensure that there's no protest that comes in from all these resident groups there or pro-Hindu groups who have been demanding celebration at the Eidgah Maidan in Chamrajpet.
Okay. Harish, now talk to us and our viewers of what this entire row and controversy is. This is political as well as ownership that is involved on different parties taking claim. Talk to us about the controversy. Why are we seeing such a row as far as the Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations are concerned?
Well, as far as Eidgah Maidan in Chamrajpet in Bengaluru is concerned, there are two aspects here. One is ownership. Now, the Revenue Department has claimed ownership of this land. The Waqf Board claims it belongs to the Waqf Board. That is something that will get decided in the Karnataka High Court in the due course of time in the coming months. The second immediate plea is that Ganesh Chaturthi celebration be not allowed here. The Waqf Board says it belongs to them. Allowing Ganesh Chaturthi there could disrupt law and order in the area, and it can be done. That's the Waqf Board's argument. Revenue Department says, well, it belongs to us. We've already had Independence Day celebration here, and this is a public playground according to us. And if Ganesh Chaturthi celebration is a public program there that the residents in the area want, we might consider that plea depending on the arrangements there. So there is a dispute on the ownership and the purpose of this ground, and one of it will get decided today in the Supreme Court. But the ownership is something that will get dragged on before the Karnataka High Court and then perhaps eventually end up in the Supreme Court in the coming months and years.
Harish, also talk to us about what are we going to see as far as the Supreme Court today is concerned. We do know that the Karnataka Waqf Board had challenged the High Court order, and the High Court had permitted, remember, the state government to take a call. What is expected as far as the Supreme Court hearing is concerned?
Well, there were two orders from the High Court. The single-judge bench asked the state government to ensure that there's no celebration and law and order is maintained. The division bench left it to the discretion of the government on deciding a plea seeking permission to celebrate Ganesh Chaturthi there. Now, the Waqf Board is likely to argue that for a number of years, there has been no celebration here, and especially when there is a dispute on the ownership of this property between the Waqf Board and the Revenue Department, there should be no change in the purpose of this land and who it is allotted to. The courts have made it clear that there could be prayers on two occasions by the Muslim community, and that should continue. The government should change the purpose and how it's used, and they should continue the status quo is the argument by the Waqf Board. The government is likely to say that there has been enough time given to the Waqf Board to prove that it belongs to them or claim the kata ownership of this property. That hasn't happened, and it belongs to the revenue department. And they would argue that the government should be given that discretion on deciding how the ground gets used for the benefit of local area people there.
Okay, Harish, we'll continue the conversation with you in just a bit. Stay on with us. Let's listen into some political reactions first.
We are having very elaborate bandobast to ensure that no untoward incident takes place during the Ganesha festival. Already from the last 2 weeks, a number of action has been taken by the local officers in terms of identifying all the vulnerable areas and increasing the deployment there. Today we had a route march. Basically it is a confidence building measure to build confidence among the residents here. Also it is a warning to all the people if anyone intends to do any kind of a law and order incident.
Now getting some other updates as far as Karnataka is concerned. Look at the visuals that we're putting out. It is the flood fury that continues. The IT corridor of Bengaluru is completely flooded. We're also understanding areas like Belandur and Mahadevpura areas are also flooded. Harish Upadhyay continues to bring us those details. Harish, the visuals are not looking great. Just talk to us about the main areas where the flood fury continues.
Well, it's largely the IT corridor of Bangalore that's been affected by the overnight rains, whether it's Belandur, Mahadevpura, HSR layout, or even crucial roads connecting Bengaluru to the electronic city. All these major roads, especially which are part of the outer ring road, have been inundated. As a result, you see traffic flow getting affected severely, especially in the morning office hours. And to make matters worse, the water hasn't resided because there has been rain for the last few days. And most of these lakes are full now, and the drains too are clogged, and roads continue to be inundated. There is a yellow alert for the city as well. More rain expected in the evening. So it's absolute misery, especially for office goers, the ones heading to IT companies located on the outer ring road and electronic city.
Harish, what has been the response as far as the state government is concerned?
Well, the state government is grappling with issues at various places, especially of flooding in districts, in Bengaluru as well. The government says that this is unprecedented rain being seen, huge amount of rain in a very short duration. Several areas in Bangalore have received in excess of 110 millimeters of rain overnight, and that has meant that most drains do not have the capacity to carry that kind of water, and that's one of the reasons the government claims that these roads have been flooded. But let's also not forget the government has failed to clear up drains in terms of drains, stormwater drains, Rajakaluways, which are meant to ensure that stormwater discharges to the nearby lake. Those have been encroached, not cleared. At the same time, many of these roads are on the periphery of lakes as well, on lake boundaries. That has meant that flooding becomes inevitable. In the case of Mysuru, we've already seen natural of various lakes being blocked by the highway expansion project, which has meant that a big ticket project which has seen hundreds of crores being spent, seeing massive damage, at the same time massive flooding as well.
You know, Harish, once again what has come to light is the lapses as far as urban planning is concerned. Look at the updates that we're getting as far as the Bengaluru-Mysuru highway is concerned. That is also inundated. What has been the response as far as officials on the ground? Because this is not anything new as far as Bangalore is concerned.
Well, the Chief Minister visited some of these areas, especially along the Mysuru-Bengaluru highway, and he claimed that the work that's happening, the expansion work that's happening, had clogged the drains. But there are issues here. As experts have pointed out, that there are valley areas where this highway project is being constructed, and it takes no precaution to ensure that there is enough space, enough drain space for the valley to be not disturbed. And at many places, this valley has been clogged, the road has been built over it, and only a few pipes have been placed merely for adhering to the norms, but not really ensuring that practically the water can be drained to the downstream lakes. And that's one of the main reasons that the Bengaluru-Mysuru highway has been blocked, especially around Kumbalgodu, Bidadi and Ramnagara area.
You know, Harish, as you were rightly pointing out, and as I said, this is not anything new, whether it's rain, potholes or floods. These are pictures that we continue to see year after year, causing a lot of inconvenience to residents and the other travelers. One, I want to understand what is the kind of traffic snarls that we're seeing in and around these affected areas. What is the advisory that has also been issued to people?
Well, in fact, around the outer ring road, the police are diverting the traffic. Many of these places around Mahadevpura, HSR and other places, the traffic police are advising people to not take the outer ring road stretch, which is completely blocked because of the flooding, and several vehicles have been stranded on the road. So the police advising people not to take this road and take alternative routes. But the problem is several of these areas are also, they do not have good interior roads and can't take this kind of a traffic. So it's an absolute traffic snarl, and in some places the traffic has come to a grinding halt and people are having a miserable time this morning.
Harish, I'll just request you to stay on with us. Taking on from what you're saying, we also have activist Brinda Adige now joining us on the broadcast. The Aam Aadmi continues to pay the price, Brinda, every single time. Rains, potholes and floods. Massive lapses as far as urban planning is concerned. Authorities keep passing the buck, but nobody really wants to have accountability.
You're absolutely right. It is not that they do not want to have accountability. It is that none of us are holding them accountable. Their senior officers are not holding anybody accountable. And politicians are on a trip of their own. And you know that Bangalore is already known as 40%, where the contractors, the ones who get their tenders, have to pay this much of money to probably the bureaucracy and the politicians. So the kind of work that is being done is absolutely shoddy. And this shoddy job is now cursed to the citizens who have to suffer this kind of inundated roads where we cannot go. This chaos and fiasco is because of no consultative planning, because of no input and convergence. They have not sought the suggestions of the public, the citizens. Neither have they shown the plan before they go forward with the work. And we also know that many of them have encroached and used up spaces where they must not be doing any kind of construction. The construction itself has been done in an unprofessional manner, and citizens are suffering today. But neither the courts, nor the BBMP, nor the state machinery has to date asked for a review and pulled up the erring officials or the engineers or to those whom they have outsourced. It is because we don't seem to have a law that can be put into place where these people can be held accountable. Because of being outsourced, everything is compartmentalized that nobody knows who should be booked just now.
You know, Brinda, also what's the larger issue is this is the IT hub as far as India is concerned. It's often compared to the Silicon City. What is the message that we are sending as far as investment and corporates are concerned? Is this the city they would want to invest in?
Certainly not. They will not want to invest in a city whose infrastructure, such something as simple as the road, is not being constructed properly. Which engineer drew up what? What was the PWD doing? What is the BBMP doing? Who will want to come and invest over here if you are going to get stuck on the road for hours together? Who knows, maybe for days together because of climate change and everything that is happening, cutting off trees. We seem to have insistent rains. That is something we cannot stop just now. But at least your roads could have been made. Our stormwater drains are all blocked. There are no stormwater drains in any of these tender sure roads that were made 4 or 5 years ago. So you look at
These are questions that need to be taken to the officials and the state government. Ma'am, I'll request you to stay on with us. We also have from the BJP, Pramila Nisargi joining us. Ma'am, good to have you on the broadcast with us. What really explains the visuals that we are seeing? This is an issue that continues to plague Bangalore and Karnataka year after year. What is causing the lapses on the ground? Okay, we'll try and re-establish that connection with Pramila Nisargi. But look at the visuals that we are putting out. On our screens. Year after year, this is an issue that continues to plague Karnataka. We also have political analyst Abdul Razak Khan now joining us on the broadcast. Good to have you on the broadcast with us. What really explains the visuals that we're seeing on our screens? Where are the lapses? Sir, can you hear me?
Yes. Fatima, what I would like to say is, right from the day that the BJP has taken up over Karnataka as a government, they have not concentrated on governing the city for people welfare. All that they have concentrated is only to make money. You go to any department today, including schools, everywhere there is corruption. All the people whom they purchase by paying money, the other party MNAs and the amounts they spend, they are only here to make money out of politics. They are not here for people welfare. It has been proved time and again. This is not the first time that these low-lying areas have been inundated underwater. This has been happening many a times before as well. So there was no precaution taken. Not only Bangalore city as an urban city, I'm talking about very close by city, Ramnagara, which is rural Bengaluru, has been underwater since 3 days. There is not a single BJP minister visiting Ramnagar. When it comes to communal politics, these people go in queue system.
Okay.
Every person goes there and awards money. When something like murder happens in Shimoga, they say that this is our Karyakarta.
Okay, so that's
Today,
something crucial
like
that you're bringing to us and our viewers, that despite these areas facing issues for the last couple of days, nobody from the state government actually has reached the ground. I'll take in a response from the BJP. I'll request you to stay on with us. We're also now opening our call-in lines. The question that we're asking is this: the IT city continues to crumble, and it's the Aam Aadmi who continues to pay us the price. Call us on the numbers flashing on our screen, 0120-434-1895. I'll repeat the numbers for all our viewers, 0120-434-1895. We'd love to hear your views. I want to now take in a reaction from BJP's Pramila Nisargi. Pramila Nisargi, what explains the visuals that we are seeing? Multiple people calling us and telling us that areas that continue to be inundated over the last couple of days are not even seeing state representation or any official even try to visit those areas.
I'm sorry, because I heard the previous speaker telling about his corruption and all that. I want to reply. Does he know what Mr. Ramesh Kumar speaker said? He has said for 5 generations the Congress has made the money. So, in other words, the corrupted money is there with them. They had no vision, they had no future thought. And it is the foundation laid by them to Bangalore and other cities. They ruled the state for so many years.
No, ma'am. Let's not get into political war of words today. Today, the state government is yours. So, the accountability will have to be yours. The questions will have to be asked from you as well.
Hear me, give me opportunity. It is a result of the foundation laid by them. We have to set right the mistakes committed by Congress and JDS for years. We have to now set right. We are doing it. Who said people are gone? Not gone. Even Ashok has gone. Chief Minister Bommai himself had gone to Ramnagar, and the speaker has the audacity to say no one has gone. Mr. Ashok Narayan, the minister,
no, ma'am, the question that is being raised is that there are lapses as far as urban planning is concerned. There are no proper routes that are made for drainage of this water. Why is that not being tackled?
Drainage depends upon the planning. Who did the planning for the city? When did they do? Now the city has grown by leaps and bounds. The drainage that was done years back is not sufficient to take up. So now it is high time. That entire drainage system in the entire state has to be redone. Replan has to be done. And it has been invested and done. It can't be done overnight. Now there's just Bommai has taken this spot, gone on to the spot, and is making arrangements to improve. And
but those arrangements don't seem to be having results on the ground, but there is no end to the civic apathy. Ma'am, I'll just request you to stay on with us. We also have a bunch of callers now calling us. From Pune, we have Arvind Dhaya who's calling us. Arvind, go ahead. What do you feel?
मैडम, मेरा सिर्फ एक ही क्वेश्चन है, वो आम आदमी से है. क्या उन्होंने अपना प्लास्टिक यूज करना बंद कर दिया? सैनिटरी पैड जो है ना वो फ्लश में डालते हैं, उसकी वजह से ये सब कुछ होता है. Why every time you blame on the government?
Okay. But the issues are still remaining on the ground, Arvind. There is an issue as far as planning is concerned. There is an issue as far as the drainage plan is concerned. It has led to inundation. It's leading to traffic snarls. Also, the larger message that is being sent out as far as Bengaluru being the IT hub. But we appreciate you calling us here on CNN News 18. We have another caller calling us from Bengaluru this time. Raghunath is calling us. Raghunath, good to have you with us. Go ahead. What do you feel?
Madam, from 2 decades. Hello.
We can hear you, Raghunath.
Yes, from 2 decades. Hello.
We can hear you, Raghunath. Go ahead.
Yes, I am here. From 2 decades, the officials, the drain water, storm water drain officials not working well from 2 decades. Therefore, hello.
We can hear you, Raghunath. Go ahead. Tell us about your problems. Which area do you live in? What are the problems that you're facing?
Bangalore, SWD, the department is there, SWD, storm water drains. Yet they are not working well. They must have to be implement the NGT orders. They are not implementing. They are giving permissions to build on the drain, storm water drains. Therefore, this type is happening in the rainy times.
Okay.
If rain comes, that SWD is not following the government orders. They are collide with the site owners and they are giving permission.
So you're saying there's flouting of rules and even the lack of implementation, the laws that have been passed. We appreciate you calling us here. We also have Arun calling us once again from Bengaluru. Arun, in which area of Bengaluru do you stay and what are the issues that you're facing?
Hello.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Mrs. Arun. Okay, and I belong to the RW of Cooktown. I'm the secretary. No, there's no desilting of the drains, nor, potholes have not been done for more than 4 or 5 years. No desilting. So little rain, all the water just gets backlogged and comes into the houses also. Hello?
We can hear you, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the roads also, madam, they've not laid, I think it's more than 5 to 6 years now. They've not laid the roads.
Okay.
And of course, I know,
Okay.
And the potholes.
Correct. So potholes menace,
done.
of course, continues to plague Bengaluru, and now you're seeing flood fury as well. We appreciate you calling us here on CNN News 18. Let me take another caller, Shankar, calling us again from Bengaluru. Shankar, go ahead. Talk to us about the problems that you face on a day-to-day basis.
Bangalore, one thing, madam. For the past 100 years, we never have had COVID-like disease. That for the past 3 years, we are suffering. Now, for the past 2 months, we are getting water like floods. For everything, we can't blame the government. A hospital, if 100 beds are there, we can treat patients about for 40, 50, 60, 80, 100 come. If 1,000 comes, what will the government do? Can they expect floods for another next season also? And you see, these roads are all tarred every 4 years, 5 years, they re-tarring. But this time, because of this COVID, they had less amount of funds, and here and there, they are doing tarring also. So please don't blame the government for anything and everything. We should also, as public, we should also cooperate and help the government in solving the problems. Give them suggestions.
Okay, we appreciate you calling us with that suggestion, Shankar. Our call-in lines are still open. Numbers are flashing on your screen, 0120-434-1895. What is causing the challenges as far as planning in Bengaluru is concerned? Why do we continue to see year after year these visuals from the IT hub of the country? But as of now, as my colleague was pointing out, the situation on the ground is not looking good. What is even more appalling is that you do have no representation as far as state authorities are concerned. So where is the lapses? Is it a matter of corruption? Is it a matter of intent? Or is it just a matter as far as accountability is concerned? Certain lakes have also breached their safety mark. Traffic snarls continue to wreak havoc for commuters and travelers and people who are living in Bengaluru. We are also now understanding that the Bengaluru-Mysuru highway also is inundated, which has also led to a lot of havoc on the streets. Another caller calling us from Bengaluru, Priya calling us. Priya, go ahead. Talk to us about the challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis.
So I live in the IT corridor, Bellandur, the famed outer ring road of Bangalore. So what we are seeing today is a result of the problems that we've been facing through the year, and today is probably the end result of all of it. To start off with, the quality of roads. There's been nothing that has been done to fix potholes. And, with the rains, the sort of number of people who fall down and the sort of two-wheeler accidents that are happening is to be seen, to be believed. On top of it, now the waterlogging. There's been nothing that has been done to clean the stormwater drains. I mean, encroachments are something we keep talking about, but there's been no action, concrete action that has been seen. So, 3 years back, the same sort of flooding, the same situation, the same location, we spoke. Things have pretty much remained the same. I have had friends who've been stuck for 2.5, 3 hours on the outer ring roads today to reach workspace. And we live here, so this is what we have to face through every monsoon. This is not fair, and this is amongst the highest property tax paying zones in Bangalore, the highest tax paying citizens out here, and I'm surely we deserve better than this.
Absolutely, you do deserve better, and those questions need to be asked to the authorities. Priya, we appreciate you calling us here on CNN News 18. We're now shifting our focus to the other big story that we're tracking this afternoon. Karnataka police is facing mounting criticism over the fact that it's now been 72 hours after an FIR was registered against an influential Lingayat seer and 4 others in a minor sexual assault case. But no arrests have been made yet. The Chitradurga police have registered a case under the POCSO Act against the seer, but yesterday he was only detained, questioned and then eventually released. The seer has said that he is innocent and has claimed that this entire situation is a big conspiracy against him. The statements of the 2 minor complainants are also yet to be recorded, despite the fact that medical tests have been completed on Sunday evening itself. Dalits held a protest in Chitradurga demanding the seer's arrest, and in the backdrop of this chaos, BJP MLA Tippa Reddy reportedly met the seer and has now come out to say that the seer is hurt by this ongoing situation.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಇದು ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿ ಇಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸೂಕ್ಷ್ಮವಾದ ವಿಚಾರ ಏನಿದೆ ಇದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಮುಂದುವರಿಬೇಕು. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವು ಕಾನೂನಿನ ಚೌಕಟ್ಟೇನಿದೆ ಆ ಕಾನೂನಿನ ಚೌಕಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವು ಹೇಳಿಕೆಗಳು ಬಂದಾಗ ಅನಿವಾರ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಇಂಥ ಘಟನೆ ನಡೀತದೆ. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂತಿಮವಾದ ಸ್ವರೂಪ ಏನು ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಕಾದು ನೋಡೋಣ.
As POCSO case has been registered against the seer here in the Chitradurga, you can see the Dalit community people are here protesting right in front of the Child Development Office. In the visual, you can see them all being seated here for a dharna and have been demanding for a justice, and they're asking for an immediate arrest of the seer. Meanwhile, you can see on the left-hand side of mine, the police is also trying to convince these protesters, saying that the investigation in the matter is on and you don't have to sit and do this dharna, as this is a very sensitive incident and a case has to be considered in a very sensitive manner. Thus, do not sit here for a dharna. Yesterday too, they were sitting here for a dharna and were demanding for a regular justice and immediate arrest of the seer. The kind of an attempt that has been made from the police here, but meanwhile, you see the Dalit community people over here being seated here.
Let me also now bring in my colleague Ritu, who's been tracking all these developments for us. Ritu, we just saw the ground report that you had filed for us, but the question still remains the same. 72 hours on, what is causing the delay as far as an arrest is concerned?
Yes, so it's already been 4 days that the FIR was being registered, but there seems to be no action being taken from the police. But police also maintains to be silent in this whole incident and have not come on camera to talk of what exactly is happening and what kind of a course of action that the police is likely to take at least. So that's the biggest question that has been raised against the police as well as against the state government. Is that state government and the leaders are also fearing the another coming up election, that it might, this incident might affect their work, in fact, somewhere around. So that's the kind of questions that have been raised against the state government as well as against the police. But of course, it's a very sensitive issue that we're getting to see. But on the other side, the protesters are also protesting, demanding for the seer's immediate arrest, because it's been a long time and no action seems to be coming out. So that's the kind of a situation right now that we're getting to see here. But of course, you see the seer also speaking about it and have called it out as a conspiracy against him. And this is not a new thing that he's going through, but from past 15 years, there has been a lot of conspiracy that has been played against him and against the mud for a kind of a work that the mud is doing and the kind of an internal developments that are taking place with, inside the mud. So that's another thing that we have to point out. But let me also tell you out the other side of this whole story. We see that the other accused in this whole incident named Baswaraj, so he too is can be seen playing a major role, because what our sources say is that there has been a huge conspiracy that has been played against the mutt and this year, of course. But in a meanwhile, the Baswarajan, the other accused in this whole incident, along with his wife, has been seen playing an internal power tussle game too. So that might also be another conspiracy that's likely that what
so
the
even
is
as questions are being raised as to why no legal action is being taken, the seer has maintained his innocence in saying this is all just a conspiracy. Ritu, I'll request you to stay on with us. We're now getting some reactions coming in as well. CNN News 18 has now spoken to the legal advisor to the mutt, and he's gone on to say it is up to the investigating officers to take steps forward. What they're also now confirming to us is that they've filed a bail application and a notice has been issued to the victims as well. Let's listen in.
As per section 41, he's supposed to get arrested, but is there some other law too which enjoys its own power? What is exactly in it? But why is he not been arrested is the kind of question, because it's already been 4 days that the FIR has been registered against him.
I want to give clarity for why he is not arrested. One, whatever you say, there is a provision under section 41 arrest. At the same time, investigation officers also have privilege under section 41, Roman 2. Capital E.
So what's the next step that the legal team of the mutt is preparing for?
We are already filed bail application in our district and session court. It is posted for 1st November 2002 for issue notice. The Honorable Court also issued notice to the victims for their presence. Thereafter, it has taken its own course.
My colleague Ritu continues to be with us. Ritu, you spoke to the legal advisor as far as the mutt is concerned. First, help us understand what is the legal strategy that they're preparing at this point.
Yes, so you see what the legal advisor of the Muga mutt has to say to CNN News 18, that the bail application has been filed in the court, and that's which is going to be heard on 1st of September. But on the other side, while speaking to the advisor, we also tried understanding what exactly is turning out, and things are panning out at the mutt and against the seer. So that's what the advisor also had to say, that of course we on the legal side, it's something that there are other sections too which enjoys its own power and has the privilege as well to the investigation officers that they might arrest or they might not arrest as well. It is all left to the investigative officers to take up their own action in this whole incident. But when we're talking about it, about the investigation of the part in this whole incident, the Mahajar process was also being taken up here at the mutt for almost 3 hours. So that's one thing. And the other side, we have seen how the medical test of a girl was being done on Sunday, and the recording too were being done under the presence of the CWC. But what remains to be questioned is that why is there a delay in the other process that we're seeing? That why you see that now the magistrate court is also going to record the girl's statement at around 2 p.m. as what we are learning. So there has somewhere been seen that this incident is whole being purposefully dragged, and things are being taken very easily and in its own manner is that we're getting to see in this incident. But of course, there had to be an immediate action usually that we have seen in this kind of a POSCO case.
So we'll really have to see what is the action that follows amid what we're also seeing very guarded reactions from different political parties. Ritu, thanks a lot for getting us all those details. We have to now shift our focus to some other details coming in. We're now understanding the Jharkhand High Court has taken cognizance of the Dumka murder case. Remember, in Dumka, class 12 student was set on fire by a youngster who had first stalked her and then eventually indulged himself in this murder. He's been identified as Shahrukh. This is also alleged to a political war of words. Remember, the BJP has lashed out at the Jharkhand Chief Minister, and they've gone on to say that this incident actually has shaken the state. And while the Chief Minister was busy on a picnic, what is the action that is now being taken? But first, let's understand the developments that we're bringing to you now as far as the Jharkhand High Court is concerned. My colleague Saurabh Rathore is now joining us on the broadcast. Saurabh, talk to us about what's played out as far as the Jharkhand High Court is concerned.
Yes, the Jharkhand High Court has taken suo motu cognizance of Ankita murder's case, and it has summoned DGP and Home Secretary of Jharkhand in that case. Not only the Jharkhand High Court, in fact, yesterday we saw Governor calling up DGP, and he was taking note of all the developments of this case, in which the Governor commented that this kind of incident should not happen, and it questions about the law and order of the state. And he has in fact given a kind of warning to the DGP and told him to look into the matter seriously and get the investigation done as soon as possible, so that justice should be done to the family. In fact, the governor has also issued a check of 2 lakh rupees from his discretionary discretionary account. So now today we have seen the development. The Jharkhand High Court has taken suo motu cognizance, and it has summoned the Home Secretary as well as the DGP of Jharkhand in this case.
Okay, Saurabh, I also want to talk to you about a controversy as far as the victim's age is concerned. Is this now looking like a case where officials wanted to hide the fact that the victim was a minor?
Prima facie, it seems like, because the father of the girl, he on camera he said that the girl's age was 17 years. In fact, I talked to the medical superintendent of RIMS Ranchi, that is Rajendra Institute of Medical Sciences, where she was admitted on 23rd of August, and the document over there, the records said, in fact, the medical superintendent confirmed the age of the girl was 17. Now, if we look at the statement that was recorded when the girl was in hospital, when she was brought in Dumka Hospital, where the statement was recorded in front of executive magistrate, the police statement that had recorded says that the age was 19 years. So clearly there is a discrepancy in the age, and in fact the BJP and other leaders of BJP top brass such as Raghubar Das, Baulan Marandi, Arjun Munda, they all have been raising this question as to how come the police officials registered the wrong age. It was a
Saurabh, I apologize for interrupting. I'll just continue the conversation with you. We're now getting another update coming in where we're understanding the Jharkhand DGP also has been summoned in the Dubka murder case, and he's been summoned as far as the High Court is concerned. What more details are you picking up on those lines? Saurabh, can you hear me? Okay, we'll try and re-establish that connection with my colleague Saurabh, but the big update is that the High Court has taken cognizance. We're also understanding that they've also summoned the Jharkhand DGP. Remember, this has led into a political war of words, leading to the larger question, have we failed the victim? Well, we're now shifting our focus to the national capital, where we're understanding the LG has taken serious note of delay and audit of accounts in universities under Delhi government by the CAG. The LG has sought an explanation from the Vice Chancellor for delaying the CAG audit for 5 years, along with details of officers who are responsible for this lapse within a time period of 15 days. Also flags non-holding of university court meetings. The LG Secretariat has written to universities to ensure the same. Fresh friction point between the Aam Aadmi Party and the LG. My colleague and senior editor Pallavi Ghosh is joining us with more details. Pallavi, talk to us about this recent friction point.
Well, I mean, this is just a detailed letter which has been expressing concern from the Lieutenant Governor, and this has got to do with those universities which comes under the Delhi government. And I'm just reading out one line, is that LG takes serious note of the delay in the audit of accounts in those universities which are under the Delhi government by the CAG, and they're seeking an explanation for delaying these audits for 5 years, along with the details of the officers responsible for this lapse within 15 days. What is interesting over here is that once again the education policy of the Delhi government is coming under a scanner. Every time a question has been raised over the excise policy, the Aam Aadmi Party government has always countered by saying that the BJP government at the centre is jealous of the fact that the flagship programs of the Delhi government, which is education and healthcare, has actually got a lot of support and also appreciation, not just within the country but also abroad. Now, this insinuation which comes in from the LG and is asking for an audit of account shows that there is no transparency as far as the education policy of the Delhi government is concerned. Very much in sync, which was said by the BJP earlier in the day at their press conference.
Pallavi, this entire flashpoint between the AAP and the LG seems to be having a new topic every single day. Just a couple of days ago, you had certain files which had been sent back from the LG because they didn't have signatures of the Chief Minister. Just give us a backdrop of these flashpoints that we've seen just in the last couple of weeks.
Well, in that letter which the LG had written to the Delhi Chief Minister, what essentially he insisted on is that henceforth any file which comes must have the signature of the Delhi Chief Minister. 47 files were returned on the ground that they were not signed by the CM, despite the fact that this was a point which was flagged off by the LG. Sources close to the LG's office say the reason why they think the CM was not signing these files is because if tomorrow there's some kind of a trouble or a questioning of those decisions, then the responsibility can always be shrugged off by the CM, saying he hadn't signed on it and hence he is not culpable. In fact, in the latest letter which has been written by the LG, he also makes a mention on this point when he says that there are certain files which says that the Honorable CM has seen and approved. CM may not have signed, but he has seen and approved those decisions and those files, and therefore we are also going to hold the Chief Minister accountable.
Pallavi, what has been the response as far as the Aam Aadmi Party is concerned so far?
I mean, if you remember that at the Delhi Assembly special session yesterday, which took place, there was a counter-attack which came in from the Aam Aadmi Party, the Delhi government. In fact, they put serious charges and allegations of corruption against the LG. They also said the LG must resign and that they're going to be meeting the president on this. And there were grave charges which were made by them. LG's office, of course, did not react to that. But I think now even the LG's office has been dragged into this fight between the BJP and the Aam Aadmi Party. Clearly, there are two issues on which AAP is being consistently attacked and questioned. Is one on the education, the latest being the universities, earlier on the Delhi schools, and the second, of course, the mohalla clinics or the healthcare system, which are being floated by the Delhi government.
Pallavi, I'll just request you to stay on with us. We just want to take in a reaction from the BJP, from the Delhi BJP. We have Harish Khurana joining us on the broadcast. So good to have you on the broadcast with us. Your first reaction to what has just played out, where the LG has taken serious note of delay and audit of accounts in various universities under the Delhi government by the CAG.
See, Aam Aadmi Party has been exposed now. What they were claiming, they are the best in the world of their policy, education policy, the best. But since last few days, we have seen first the CBC report which comes out where the clear-cut case of corruption and 5 lakh rupees classrooms were being made by 33 lakhs and also included toilets in the classrooms. This has been exposed. Now the latest one, which CAG has already pointed out on university thing, this has also been exposed. So my point is, this Kejriwal government is clearly exposed in corruption, and now corruption and Arvind Kejriwal is one of the same thing now.
The question that is being raised not just by the CAG but now by the LG also is, who really is causing the delay as far as an audit is concerned?
I'm sorry, I didn't get your question, please.
I said the larger question here is, which needs answers, is who or what is causing the delay as far as the audit is concerned?
See, today the motto of Arvind Kejriwal, we should understand what is the motto today. His motto is to do corruption in all departments. So everything has been derailed. Whatever the claims which they were doing it has been exposed now. I mean, we see the mohalla clinics, we have seen their health model, we have seen their shiksha model, education model. We have seen everything. And the main is excise. In all departments.
You know, but Harish Khurana, the response from the Aam Aadmi Party, whether it was mohalla clinics, whether it was their education policy or the education model, their response has been that this is just a frustrated BJP, because today not just citizens within the country but even people globally are appreciating that the work that is being done by Arvind Kejriwal and the likes of Manish Sisodia, and the BJP just can't take to digest that praise.
Education, I'll respond on that. Education policy is so much famous and so much in this. How many children of MLAs are studying in government school? I need a clear-cut answer from Arvind Kejriwal government. Point number one. Point number two, the health policy is too much famous. How many, they have spent 1.25 crore rupees on their private hospital bills, which was given even by Delhi government itself. So, I mean, what they say and what they do is totally different. And the corruption is the main motto of the government today. From anywhere, any department, their motto is where to collect the money.
Okay. Harish Khurana of the Delhi BJP, we appreciate you joining us here on CNN News 18. Let me continue the conversation with my colleague Pallavi. Pallavi, the larger question that is being raised is that who or what is causing the delay in this audit? In cases like these, what is the general protocol and the process that is followed?
See, there is a Comptroller and Auditor General, that's the CAG, which does these auditing. And the CAG asks for accounts for any government, any state government or union territory on their basic expenditures. Now here what the LG's note seems to be suggesting is that the CAG has been asking for an account, and you're supposed to give an account of whatever work or decisions which have been taken where the funds have been asked for. And in this case, it's very specifically talks about the fact that there are a handful of universities which directly comes under Delhi government, which actually should have faced scrutiny, but they have not faced scrutiny. One, because no audit was ever submitted to the CAG, and now they're being asked to do it within the 15 days. So the question which is being asked is that why is it that you never give auditing details, account details? Every organization does that, every company is expected to do so, and that's the question which is being asked, is that why is it that you've not actually made public, or there's no transparency in the way the money is being spent? And you also have to be answerable to that extent to a CAG. Now when that audit details comes to a CAG, the CAG scrutinizes it, and it also submits a report. And if some discrepancy is found, then it's up to the central or the respective authorities to take a call on that. And very quickly I come back to you, Ridhima.
Sure.
If you remember, in the case of the coal scam, in the case of the 2G scams, it's the CAG reports which became a very important determining and critical factor.
Okay. Pallavi, but as you were pointing out, that what is causing the delay? If there is nothing wrong, why not put those accounts out rather than opening yourself for this share of criticism?
That's exactly the question which the LG's office is asking, that if you are above board, everything is transparent, nothing has been fudged, then why not show that transparency? Now, if you remember, Ridhima, earlier letter also by LG, and the points which have they raised, not is just about the universities, that's today, but earlier they've also raised question marks over, for example, funds were asked for, allocated for schools in Delhi. There were claims which are being made by the Delhi government about so many classrooms being opened, and fact-checking finds that instead of classrooms, toilets were actually being shown as classrooms. Thereby, there was fudging of accounts which were also taking place. These are the allegations which are coming in from the BJP, from the central government, and of course from the LG's office.
Okay, Pallavi, we appreciate you joining us with all those details. Well, we're shifting our focus to some other details now coming in. BJP, MLC and former Congress and JDS leader H. Vishwanath demands the immediate arrest of the Lingayat seer accused of sexual harassment, warns delay can work against the BJP in the coming assembly election, attacks PS Yediyurappa for backing the seer and questions the silence of Siddaramaiah and others. That's the big update that's coming in, where you now have BJP, MLC and former Congress and JDS leader H. Vishwanath, who's now in fact demanding the immediate arrest of this Lingayat seer, who's raising a lot of questions as to why an arrest still hasn't happened. He's been accused of sexual harassment by 2 minor victims. He's also warning that the delay can actually work against the BJP in the coming assembly elections. Our group editor South, DP Satish, is now joining us on the broadcast with more details. DP, this is extremely interesting because till now, all the political reactions that we've seen have been extremely guarded. This time around, you have a BJP MLC coming out and asking for an arrest.
See, H. Vishwanath is a senior BJP leader in MLC. Earlier, he was with JDS and Congress. He was also a minister in the Congress government. Then he was a Congress MP. Then he was JDS state president, who switched over to BJP, and he is now an MLC from Mysore. He is outspoken. And Vishwanath held a press conference in Mysore, and he has demanded the immediate arrest of Shivmurthy of Chitradurga Muruga Mutt, who is accused of pedophile. And he has warned that if the BJP doesn't act immediately, it can work against the party in the coming assembly elections. He has also attacked former Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa for openly backing and giving a clean chit to the alleged seer who is accused of pedophile. He has also questioned the silence of Congress leader Siddaramaiah and JDS leader H.D. Kumaraswamy. And Vishwanath feels that all political parties in Karnataka are cautious and guarded, keeping the number of Lingayats in the state. And he is demanding that state government should go ahead and arrest him immediately.
You know, but DP, this is very, very interesting because till now the understanding was because there are going to be political ramifications, thus we are seeing very guarded political responses. Now you have this BJP MLC who's actually hit out at Yediyurappa. He's actually been one leader who's come out and already given a clean chit to the seer saying this is just a conspiracy. How do you see this play out as far as the BJP is concerned?
See, BJP is cautious because Chief Minister Basuraj Bommai is cautious. He hasn't said anything. He is saying that police are investigating and law will take its own course, those kind of things. And Bommai hasn't said anything much. And he has allowed police to conduct the investigation. But police are dragging it and delaying it and nothing has happened so far. According to some insiders, this Swami had fled Chitradurga yesterday morning and police came to know about that. And once he realized that police are chasing him, he returned to Mutt. And he has also filed an anticipatory bail before a Chitradurga court. But protest against Swami is going across the state. In Chitradurga, the Dalit organizations and other organizations are protesting, demanding his immediate arrest. And police have already charged him with pedophile and also under SC/ST Act because one of the victims is an SC girl. And Karnataka BJP is cautious. Yediyurappa has openly backed the Swami, saying that it is a conspiracy, but Yediyurappa is now under fire for making such a statement because police are yet to complete the investigation. And even before that, Yediyurappa has jumped the gun by giving a clean chit to the Swami. It has gone against Yediyurappa and it has backfired. And his own party, MLC Vishwanath, has attacked Yediyurappa for, he has alleged that Yediyurappa is trying to protect this Swami.
You know, DP, till now the understanding was that the reason that we are seeing such guarded responses or such cautious words from politicians is because of the clout that the Lingayat community enjoys and they won't want to mess with that vote bank. But now with the reactions that are coming in, does this move of dealing an arrest for the seer, is it now looking like it could backfire for the BJP?
No, this is what this MLC Vishwanath says because there are others, those who are against this Swami. And secondly, there are people, they may be Lingayat, but it doesn't mean that they support a Swami who is accused of pedophile. So Vishwanath claims majority of the Lingayats don't support any of these things and they are also upset with this Swami for doing such a thing. That's why he says if the government doesn't act against him, it will definitely backfire. So he is demanding his immediate arrest. Congress is cautious for other reasons because on the day of Siddaramaiah's birthday, Rahul Gandhi had visited this mutt and the same seer had given him Linga Diksha. And Congress doesn't know what to say now. And Congress is divided over the issue because some in Congress feel that D.K. Shivkumar was the one who took Rahul Gandhi to this mutt and embarrassed Rahul Gandhi.
I just want to understand what have been the other reactions as far as the BJP is concerned. We've already seen a reaction from Yediyurappa who's in fact given a clean chit to this year. Leaving Yediyurappa and the BJP MLC, within the party, what are the reactions that you're picking up?
See, almost all BJP leaders are keeping quiet. They are saying nothing. No one has said anything against the seer in public. Either they are keeping quiet, refusing to react, or they are saying that police are still investigating, let the investigation get over, those kind of things. Some are even openly backing the Swami. And now it's not just BJP, even Congress and JDS leaders, they are doing the same thing.
Okay. DP, thanks a lot for getting us all those details. This, of course, is a story that we'll keep tracking very, very closely, raising questions as to what is causing the delay as far as this arrest is concerned. With that, it's a wrap from my side. I'm tossing it to my colleague Rhea, who takes the news forward. Hi, Rhea.
Thank you so much, Ridhima, and hi there to you too. And let's actually continue with the news from Karnataka, where the Bengaluru Eidgah Maidan case has now reached the Supreme Court. Now, the apex court is looking into the matter where the Karnataka Waqf Board has challenged the recent High Court order permitting the state government to take the final call on allowing a Ganesh Chaturthi event at the Eidgah Maidan. This hearing is slated to take place at 3 p.m. But the Hubballi administration has allowed the installation of a Ganesh idol at the Eidgah Maidan for 3 days. And now the Anjuman-e-Islam has moved the State High Court and challenged this very decision. The matter at the Chamarajapet Eidgah ground and the Hubballi Eidgah ground are separate. Remember that this Eidgah Maidan dispute intensified after the Revenue Department of the state government claimed ownership of the land. Hindu groups had even started demanding permission for a Ganesh Chaturthi event at the disputed ground.
ಒಂದು ಕೋರ್ಟಿನ ಆದೇಶದ ಒಂದು ಲೆಟರ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸ್ಪಿರಿಟ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ನಾವು. ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣವಾಗಿ ಅವರ ಆದೇಶವನ್ನು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಪರಿಪಾಲನೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕನ್ನೋ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾಳೆ ಅಡ್ವೊಕೇಟ್ ಜನರಲ್ಲು ಮತ್ತು ಕಂದಾಯ ಸಚಿವರು ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮುಂದೆ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಏನಿಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಶಾಂತಿಯಿಂದ ಕಾಪಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಎಲ್ಲರ ಮನದಾಳದ ಇಚ್ಛೆಗಳನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಈಡೇರಿಸುವಂಥ ಒಂದು ಕೆಲಸ ಆಗಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ.
Let me now take this to my colleague Harish, who is joining us live on the broadcast. Harish, two separate matters when it comes to the Eidgah Maidans in question over here. One is the Hubballi one and the other one is the Chamarajapet one, which of course is going to be taken up in the Supreme Court any minute now. Now, the fact that the administration in Karnataka, Bengaluru specifically, are really bent on celebrating Ganesh Chaturthi, festivities in these Eidgah Maidans. There is also a go-ahead there in Hubballi. Just take us through what is really happening on ground when it comes to the sentiments, and also what is the administration now doing when the matter is before the apex court of the country and also the Karnataka High Court.
Well, two different Eidgah Maidans, one in Bengaluru, one in Hubballi, demands the same, to allow Ganesh Chaturthi celebration, but there are different grounds on which this is being sought. If you talk about the Chamarajapet Eidgah Maidan here in Bengaluru, the residents are saying that once the Revenue Department has said that this belongs to the department, then it's a government playground and it should be given for public purpose, and the residents in the area want to have Ganesh Chaturthi festival here and it should be allowed. And they are saying that now that the division bench has cleared it, the government should give them permission. The Supreme Court will hear that aspect. There are two matters of dispute in this case. One is the ownership of this. The Waqf Board says it belongs to them. The Revenue Department says no, it belongs to us. This will get decided in the due course of time in the High Court in the coming few weeks and months. The immediate concern, the immediate demand is to allow Ganesh Chaturthi celebration. The division bench has said that it's the discretion of the Karnataka government. Now has to be seen if the Supreme Court takes the same line, or will it buy the argument of the Waqf Board saying that it could lead to law and order issue, and ask the government to not allow any celebration at this ground and just use it for the praise that's given for on two occasions for the Muslim community and for Independence Day and Republic Day. That's something that will get cleared in the next few, perhaps next 1 hour or so. The other matter is of the Hubballi Eidgah Maidan. Remember, there the ownership issue is sorted. It belongs to the Hubballi Dharwad Municipal Corporation. That is very clear. The Hubballi Dharwad Municipal Corporation, after the sitting of its council and
Harish, I'm afraid I'd have to interrupt you. We are just quickly turning our focus to the national capital, where the Delhi Deputy Chief Minister is speaking in the Delhi Assembly.
एक घंटे के लिए स्थगित करना पड़ा, पहली बात. दूसरी बात, आप लोग रूल 270 पढ़िए. रूल 270 एक कहता है कि किसी भी वाद विवाद में अगर मंत्री परिषद में से कोई भी मंत्री अपना वक्तव्य रखने के लिए अनुमति मांगता है तो चेयर को अनुमति देनी पड़ेगी नियम 270 के तहत. उसी रूल को फॉलो करते हुए अभी माननीय उप मुख्यमंत्री जी के वक्तव्य को हम लोग सुन लेते हैं. आपकी जो बात होगी इसके बाद फिर मैं उसको सुनूंगी और उस पर जो भी रूलिंग होगी, जो भी विचार विमर्श होगा, फिर वो आपके समक्ष रख दिया जाएगा. ठीक?
अध्यक्ष महोदय,
तरीका ठीक नहीं है. ये चाहे आप बेसा पहले ये बताइए, आप बेसा मेरी एक लाइन सुन लीजिए. बेसा मेरी एक लाइन सुनिए. मुझे लगता है आप अपने शब्दों को और अपनी बात को चेयर तक पहुंचाने में सक्षम हैं. बाकी 4 लोग क्यों खड़े होते हैं? क्या मैं आपकी आवाज नहीं सुन सकती, या आप अपनी बात नहीं पहुंचा सकते? पहुंचा सकते हैं ना, बोल सकते हैं, मुझे बता सकते हैं क्यों खड़े होते हैं ये लोग? तो आपके विषय को सुनने के लिए मना नहीं किया बेशा, मैंने आपके विषय को पहले मैंने एक रूलिंग दी। अगर मैंने किसी ठीक है, मैं
सदन को चलाना चाहते थे तो ये 3 दिन का या पहले वो बोलते 3 दिन का सदन बुलाते, उसका 3 दिन का नोटिस करते। हम 3 दिन के अंदर अपना क्वेश्चन भी रख सकते थे, अपना 280 भी रख सकते थे, अल्पकालिक चर्चाओं पे भी बात कर सकते थे, लेकिन उसकी आवश्यकता ही नहीं थी।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद अध्यक्ष महोदय।
अब एक मिनट सुन लीजिए रमेश साहब, आपकी बात आ गई, आपकी बात मेरे पास आ गई। मैंने क्या बोला? जब मैंने रूल 270 का हवाला देते हुए माननीय उप मुख्यमंत्री जी को बोलने के लिए कहा है, तो मैंने क्या कहा, जब इनका वक्तव्य खत्म हो जाएगा तो मैं आपके जो विचार आए हुए उसको संज्ञान में लूंगी। तो आपको बैठ जाना चाहिए ना। ये बैठ जाइए जमावर जी, बहुत गलत बात है, बहुत गलत बात है, बहुत ही ज्यादा। पिछला 1.5 दिन आप लोगों ने इसी वाद विवाद में खराब करा है। इनको समझाइए, बोलिए माननीय
अध्यक्ष महोदय। बार बार
बहुत गलत बात, बैठ जाइए।
पिछले कुछ दिनों से कहा जा रहा है कि प्रश्नों के जवाब दीजिए, प्रश्नों के जवाब दीजिए।
बैठ जाइए
अध्यक्ष महोदय, बार बार पिछले कुछ दिनों से कहा जा रहा है प्रश्नों के जवाब दीजिए, प्रश्नों के जवाब दीजिए।
ಈ ಪತ್ರಿಕಾಗೋಷ್ಠಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪರಮ ಪೂಜ್ಯರು ಸುಧಾ ಭಕ್ತಿಯ ಶರಣನ್ನು ಸಮರ್ಪಿಸಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆತ್ಮೀಯ ಪತ್ರಿಕಾ ಮಾಧ್ಯಮದವರೇ, ನಮ್ಮ ಪರಮ ಪೂಜ್ಯ ಶಿವಮೂರ್ತಿ ಮುರುಘರಾಜೇಂದ್ರ ಶರಣರು ತಮ್ಮದಂಥ ವೈಚಾರಿಕ ಕ್ರಾಂತಿಯಿಂದ ಈ ನಾಡಿನ ಗಮನವನ್ನು ಸೆಳೆದಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥವರು. ಅವರು ಶ್ರೀಮಠದ ಅಧಿಕಾರವನ್ನು ವಹಿಸಿಕೊಂಡ ಮೇಲೆ ಶ್ರೀಮಠವನ್ನು ಸರ್ವತೋಮುಖ ಬೆಳವಣಿಗೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಳೆಸೋದರಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಳ ಮುಂಚೂಣಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಜಗಜ್ಜಾಗಿರವಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಸತ್ಯವಾಗಿರ್ತದೆ. ಪರಮ ಪೂಜ್ಯರು ವಿಚಾರವಂತರು, ವೈಚಾರಿಕೆಯ ಬೆಳವಣಿಗೆ ಸಹಿಸದ ಕೆಲವು ಪಟ್ಟಬದ್ಧ ಹಿತಾಸಕ್ತಿಗಳು ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯ ಮುಖಕ್ಕೆ ಕಪ್ಪು ಮಸಿಯನ್ನು ಬೆಳೆತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಷಡ್ಯಂತ್ರವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಪರಮ ಪೂಜ್ಯರು ಈ ಆರೋಪ
to defame the Swamiji,
ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲ
and they're confident that the Swamiji would emerge clean out of this
ಸತ್ಯವಾಗಿರ್ತದೆ.
case.
ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸತ್ಯ ಹೊರಬರ್ತದೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರ ಬೆಂಬಲಕ್ಕೆ, ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರ ಹೋರಾಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಪರಮ ಪೂಜ್ಯ ಶಿವಮೂರ್ತಿ ಮುರುಘರಾಜೇಂದ್ರ ಮಹಾಸ್ವಾಮಿಗಳು ಎಲ್ಲ ಶಾಖಾ ಮಠಾಧೀಶರು, ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಮುದಾಯದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪೂಜ್ಯರು ಅವರ ಜೊತೆಲಿದ್ದು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಧೈರ್ಯ ಸ್ಥೈರ್ಯ ಅವರ ಹೋರಾಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಕ್ರಿಯವಾಗಿ ಪಾಲ್ಗೊಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಭಕ್ತ ಮಹಾಶಯರು ಸುಧಾ ಜೊತೆಗಿದ್ದುಕೊಂಡು ಇವತ್ತು ಬರ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗದೇ ಸುಧಾ ಅವರವರು ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಸ್ಥಳದಲ್ಲೇ ಬೆಂಬಲವನ್ನು ಸೂಚಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಗೆ ಆತ್ಮಸ್ಥೈರ್ಯವನ್ನು ತುಂಬ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಠಾಧೀಶರಿಗೂ ಅದನ್ನು ಆತ್ಮಸ್ಥೈರ್ಯವನ್ನು ತುಂಬ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾಡಿನ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹಿರಿಯ ಮಠಾಧೀಶರು ಸುಧಾ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಗೆ ಆತ್ಮಸ್ಥೈರ್ಯವನ್ನು ತುಂಬ್ತಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದನ್ನು ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ತಮ್ಮ ಗಮನಕ್ಕೆ ತರ್ತಾ, ಸತ್ಯದಿಂದ ಸತ್ಯವೇ ಜಯವಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರು ಆರೋಪ ಮುಕ್ತರಾಗಿ ಶ್ರೀಮಠದ ಕೈಂಕರ್ಯವನ್ನು, ಶ್ರೀಮಠದ ಬೆಳವಣಿಗೆಯನ್ನು ಇನ್ನೂ ಆಕಾಶ ಎತ್ತರಕ್ಕೆ ನಡೆಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ನಂಬಿಕೆ ಆಗಿರ್ತದೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಬೆಂಬಲ ಸದಾ ಸಿದ್ಧರಾಗಿರ್ತೇವೆ. ಇದು ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಶ್ರೀಮಠದ ಎಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮ ಜಗದ್ಗುರು ಮುರುಘರಾಜೇಂದ್ರ ಮಠದ ಅಭಿಮಾನಿ ಭಕ್ತರು ಏನಿದ್ದಾರೋ, ಈ ಪರಂಪರೆಗೆ ನಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ, ಈ ಮಠಕ್ಕೆ ನಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪರಂಪರೆಯ ಭಕ್ತಾದಿಗಳ ಬೆಂಬಲ ಸುಧಾ ಈ ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರ ಆರೋಪ ಮುಕ್ತರಾಗಬೇಕು. ಅವರು ಎಂದಿನಂತೆ ಶ್ರೀಮಠದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕರ್ತವ್ಯವನ್ನು ದಿದೀಪ್ಯಮವನ್ನು ಬೆಳೆಸಬೇಕು ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಬೆಂಬಲ ನಮ್ಮ ಭಕ್ತ ಮಹಾಶಯರಾಗಿರ್ತದೆ.
ಅಡ್ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಟರ್ನ ನೇಮಕ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಾಗ ಯಾವ ಭಕ್ತ ಮಹಾಶಯರು ಕೇಳಿಲ್ಲ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಉತ್ತರಾಧಿಕಾರಿ ಆಯ್ಕೆ ಭಕ್ತ ಮಹಾಶಯರ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯ ಕೇಳಿಲ್ಲ.
ಅದು ನಮ್ಮ
ಭಕ್ತರು ಬಂದು ಪ್ರವೇಶ
ಅದನ್ನು ನಮ್ಮ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರ ಪರಮಾಧಿಕಾರ. ಅದು ಶ್ರೀಮಠದ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರ ಎನಿ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ನೇಮಕ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಮತ್ತು ತೆಗಿತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಆಡಳಿತ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ, ಆ ಅಧಿಕಾರ ಅಂತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಪರಮ ಪೂಜ್ಯರಿಗೆ ಸೇರಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು, ನಮ್ಮ ಪೀಠಾಧೀಶರಿಗೆ ಸೇರಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ಅದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ನಮ್ಮ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರ ಅಂತಿಮ ತೀರ್ಮಾನ. ಅಂತಿಮ ತೀರ್ಮಾನ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತದೆ. ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿಯವರ ಅಂತಿಮ ತೀರ್ಮಾನ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರತಿಕ್ರಿಯೆಯನ್ನು ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದು ಸತ್ಯದ ಅದು ಸತ್ಯದ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಹೊರಬರ್ತದೆ. ಎಲ್ಲ ತಮಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತದೆ. ತಮಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತದೆ.
ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ
ಅದು ಮತ್ತೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಮತ್ತೆ
ಈಗ ಮಹಿಳೆ ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳು ಏನಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಸಂತ್ರಸ್ತ ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳು ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅದು ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟಿಗೇಟಿವ್ ಆಫೀಸರ್ ಎದುರುಗಡೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಒಡನಾಡಿ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಎದುರುಗಡೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಇವತ್ತು CRPC ಕೋರ್ಟ್ನಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ CRPC 164 ಆಗಲಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ ಅಂತಿದೆ. ಅವರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ತಾವುಗಳು ಪೂಜ್ಯರಿದ್ದೀರಿ, ಸ್ವಾಮಿಗಳಿದ್ದೀರಿ, ಸಮಾಜಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾರ್ಗದರ್ಶನ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿದ್ದೀರಿ. ಆ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ತಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಪಂದನೆ, ತಮ್ಮ ನೈತಿಕ ಬೆಂಬಲ ಅಥವಾ ತಮ್ಮದು ಆ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ನಾವು ನಿರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಸಮಾಜ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ತಮ್ಮನ್ನು ನಿರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು?
ಅಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ದೇವರ ಸಮಾನ. ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಮಗೆ ಅಭಿಮಾನ ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಆದರೆ ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ತನಿಖೆ ನಡೀತದೆ. ತನಿಖೆ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಅದು ಸತ್ಯ ಹೊರಗೆ ಬರ್ತದೆ.
ತಾವು ಶರಣರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ
but in this case there is a investigation that's currently on, and they would wait for the investigation to conclude before commenting on this case.
ಈಗ ಪ್ರಕರಣ ನ್ಯಾಯಾಲಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ನಾವು ಪ್ರತಿಕ್ರಿಯೆ ಕೊಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಕ್ಷಮಿಸಿ. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು.
ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ, ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಬ್ಬ ದಲಿತ ಬಾಲಕಿ ಇದ್ದಾಳೆ. ದಲಿತ ಸಂಘಟನೆಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಆಕ್ರೋಶ ಹೊರಹಾಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾವೆ. ಈ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ನಿಲುವೇನು? ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ದಲಿತ ಮಠಾಧೀಶರು ಕೂಡ ತುಂಬಾ ಜನ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸಂತ್ರಸ್ತ ಬಾಲಕಿಯ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಬಾಲಕರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಅಮಾಯಕ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕಾಳಜಿ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ನಾವು ಒಮ್ಮುಖವಾಗಿ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವುದು ಹೇಗೆ? ಸಮಾಜಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯ ಸಂದೇಶ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಗಳೇ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ?
ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟಿಗೇಷನ್ ಅದರಲ್ಲೂ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟಿಗೇಷನ್ ಇದರಲ್ಲೂ ಆಗ್ತದೆ
ಅಲ್ವಾ?
ಒಂದು ಪರವಾಗಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತದೆ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟಿಗೇಷನ್, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕಡೆ ಪರವನ್ನು ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕು.
ಅಲ್ಲ, ಪರಂಪರೆಯ ಮಠವೊಂದರ ನಡೆಗಳು ಇದು ಸರಿನಾ?
ಈಗ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಇದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಮತ್ತೆ ಕರೆದು ಮಾತನಾಡುವ. ಈಗ ನಾವೇನ್ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು ಹೇಳಿದೀವಿ.
ನೀವೇ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ ತನಿಖೆ ನಡೀತಿದೆ ಅಂತ. ಇವಾಗ 2 ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಬಂದು ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇವಾಗ ಅವ್ರ ಮಾತಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪನೂ ಸತ್ಯ ಇದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಮಾರು ಮಕ್ಕಳದು ಜೀವನದ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ. ನೀವು ಸುಮಾರು ಮಠದ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷ ಆಗಿರೋದು, ನೀವು ಅವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕಾಳಜಿ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆನೂ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಮಾತಾಡೋ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀರಾ?
ತನಿಖೆ ನಡೀತಿದೆ. ನ್ಯಾಯ ತೀರ್ಪು ಭದ್ರಾಗಣ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ.
ಅಲ್ಲ, ಹೊರ ಜಗತ್ತಿನಾಗೆ ಈ ದಲಿತ ಹೆಣ್ಮಗಳು ಎಲ್ಲಾದ್ರೂ ಅನ್ಯಾಯ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಸ್ವತಃ ಸಮುದಾಯ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಗೆ ಪರ ನಿಂತು ಹೇಳಿಕೆ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಮಹಿಳಾ ಪರ ದನಿಗೂಡಿಸಲಿ.
ಮತ್ತೆ ಪೋಕ್ಸೋ ಕಾಯ್ದೆ ಏನಿದೆ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ, ಪೋಕ್ಸೋ ಕಾಯ್ದೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ಪ್ರಕರಣ ದಾಖಲಾದ ಕೂಡಲೇ ಯಾರು ಆರೋಪಿತರಿದ್ದಾರೆ FIR ಆದ ಕೂಡಲೇ ಅವರನ್ನ ಅರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಂಥದ್ದು ಕಾನೂನು, ಈ ನೆಲದ ಕಾನೂನು ಮತ್ತೆ ನಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಂದಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ವಾಡಿಕೆ. ಈ ಪ್ರಕರಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಈಗ 3 ದಿವಸಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಯಿತು, ಯಾರು ಅವರನ್ನ ಮಾತಾಡಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇನ್ನು ನೋಟಿಸ್ ಕೊಡುವಂಥದ್ದಿದೆ. ಇದು ಕಾನೂನು ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಮ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಕಾನೂನಿನಲ್ಲಿ ತಾರತಮ್ಯ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ವ್ಯಾಪಕ ಆರೋಪ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ವಾಸ್ತವ ನಮ್ಮ ಎದುರುಗಡೆ ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ತಾವು ಹೇಗೆ ನಿರೀಕ್ಷೆ, ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ
ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಮಾಡೋ ಕೆಲಸ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ
ನಾವೀಗ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಹೊರಟ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಮಾಹಿತಿಯನ್ನು ಮತ್ತೆ ತಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಕರೆದು ನಾವು ಮಾತನಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು.
ಒಂದೇ ಸಂದೇಹ ನಿವಾರಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾ ನೀವು?
ಸರ್ಕಾರದಿಂದ ಹೇಳಿ ಸರ್ಕಾರದಿಂದ ಹೇಳಿ ಸರ್ಕಾರದಿಂದ ಹೇಳಿ ಸರ್ಕಾರದಿಂದ ಹೇಳಿಬಿಡಿ.
That was the Muruga Mutt briefing that was being presided over by Lingayat seers who have come out to defend the Muruga Mutt Chief Pontiff Shivamurthy Muruga Sharanaru. My colleague Harish, who was translating that entire media briefing for us, is joining me on the broadcast. Harish, just take us through all that has ensued when it comes to this press briefing, because one thing that was clearly underlined, which was said by the Lingayat seers, is that the other mutts in the state are clearly supporting the chief pontiff of Muruga Mutt.
Absolutely. Nearly 20 odd seers of different mutts from that region of Karnataka predominantly Lingayat much supporting Shivamurthy Swamiji, saying that this is a conspiracy to defame him, and they're confident that he will emerge clean from it and he will take the Muruga Mutt to newer heights. But all of them, one thing that one has to note here is all of them failed to explain on why the entire legal process has failed to ensure that the basic standard operating procedure in a case like this is followed. They don't want to comment on it till the investigation is over, but they're quickly jumping in to say that he will come out clean. This is a conspiracy. He's being defamed. He's not at fault. So makes us one wonder on whether they're just catering to their own base of devotees, because none of them really able to articulate on why they believe that Muruga Mutt seer, Shivamurthy Swamiji, is not at fault. And if he's not at fault, why is the police department failing to ensure that the procedure is followed? Look at the glaring lapses in the whole investigation that has taken place since Friday night. He hasn't been arrested. He hasn't been summoned for questioning. He hasn't been subjected to a medical test. The biggest of lapses is yesterday when they took these two minor girls to the Swamiji's room for a mahazar, and the Swamiji was present in the same mud premises. This is basic understanding, or this is basic rules that has to be followed to ensure that the victim is not in any way affected by the presence of this accused. But he continues to be in the same mud. But the police did not even battle either in taking these victims to the room for a mahazar. So blatant violation of laid out standard operating procedure by the police there in Chitradurga. But the Swamiji is saying that they are confident that Shivamurthy Swamiji will come out clean from this.
Oh, absolutely, Harish. Very, very, well pointed out. Glaring lapses, like you've rightly said. This press conference also had less that was being said by the Lingayat seers. Now, if we actually take them on the point that they are making when it comes to the controversy and the conspiracy that they're talking about, on what grounds are they actually going ahead and challenging this entire procedure and blaming it on conspiracy?
Well, from day one, the argument from either Mr. Shivamurthy Swamiji or his team is that there's a conspiracy from a former administrator of this mud, and he seems to have instigated these two young girls to file these charges. These are false charges. But one thing that constantly has been pointed out by experts is that even if there is a counter complaint, even if there is allegation of conspiracy, the first allegation, the first complaint that needs to be addressed immediately and probed is on whether there was any sexual assault. Then comes the point on whether there was a conspiracy, whether they were instigated or not. And it's a different case, can happen independently, that probe. But immediate action should be on whether there was a sexual assault. And every attempt to ensure that it's probed in an impartial manner should happen. And also remember, time is of essence here. We've already lost a lot of time.
Yes.
The Swamiji, who is a prime accused in this case, continues to be in the premises where this alleged crime took place.
Oh, absolutely, Harish. And very important, how can the victims be brought in front of the accused in this case? This is a clear intimidation tactics which is at play. The police also have a lot to answer. Let me take this to my colleague Ritu, who's also joining us from Chitradurga. Ritu, this press conference has been presided over. Things have been said, but the line remains the same. They are again claiming conspiracy, and they are saying let the law take its own course. The mutts are behind the Swamiji.
Yes, so you see almost 40 Swamiji here at the mud premises had called for a press conference here at very much at the mud premises only. But of course, on the one side that we're talking about this whole incident, you see there's a clear kind of a the seers are also backing the chief seer, but there is no kind of support that is pouring in for these minor girls. When the media personnel went on to ask the seers that what exactly is happening in this whole incident, one is that the seer is saying that from past 15 years there has been a conspiracy against the mud and against himself too. Then what is that conspiracy all about that you're talking? So is that a conspiracy that you're talking about within in the mud, or is this conspiracy coming in from outside the mud premises? That's one thing that we have to note over here. On the other side that we're talking about this whole incident, you see what kind of support that has been pouring in for these minors. For all that, you see the seers zipping out there. They don't have an answer for this particular question, but yes, there's a continuous this question that has been raised, that why the police has been failed to take any strict action against it, and it's almost been 4 days of an FIR being registered, and there is that arrest has not been made. And during the Mahazar process as well, the seer was in fact present at the very much this premises on the other side where this whole Mahazar process was happening. So in fact, for minor girls to just know that the chief seer is present at the premises might also be a very big trauma for that matter.
Ritu, I'm sorry, I'd have to interrupt you. We are going back to the Delhi Assembly where Manish Sisodia is speaking. Let's take a look.
थोड़े दिन पहले से 3-4 दिन पहले से स्कूल चिल्लाने लग रहे हैं। स्कूल में क्या कह रहे हैं? बोले केजरीवाल जी ने पहली मीटिंग में कहा था 4000 कमरे बनाएंगे, 8000 कमरे क्यों बनवा दिए, भ्रष्टाचार कर दिया। अरे हमने तो 8000 नहीं 20,000 कमरे बनवाए हैं और हमें फक्र है कि हमने बनवाए। और लानत है तुम लोगों पे जो सोचते हो स्कूल बनवाना और कमरे बनवाना भ्रष्टाचार है। 8000 कमरे बनवा दिए, बोले जी 8000 क्यों बनवाए, 4000 बनवाने चाहिए थे, ये तो भ्रष्टाचार है। फिर बोले जी टॉयलेट ज्यादा क्यों बनवा दिए, बोले पहली फ्लोर पे टॉयलेट था, दूसरी पे क्यों था, तीसरी और चौथी मंजिल चलो बना भी ली तो उस पर टॉयलेट क्यों बनवा दिए। ये कह रहे हैं भ्रष्टाचार है, ज्यादा टॉयलेट बनवाना भ्रष्टाचार है, ज्यादा कमरे कहने भ्रष्टाचार है। सारी चीजों के जवाब हैं, सारी चीजों के जवाब हैं। फिर जब वो भी नहीं चला तो कल इन्हीं की सीबीआई है, इन्हीं के एलजी है, इन्हीं के समय एलजी साहब की तरफ से एक फरमान जारी किया, बच्चे कम हो गए, ये भ्रष्टाचार है। बोले स्कूल में बच्चे कम हो गए, बजट बढ़ रहा है। अरे बजट बढ़ा रहे हैं, हम फख्र के साथ कहते हैं। और ये विधानसभा शायद देश की पहली आजादी के इतिहास में 75 साल में पहली विधानसभा है जो पिछले 7 साल से अपने बजट का 25% बजट एजुकेशन पर देती है। इस विधानसभा के और विपक्ष वाले भी कहते हैं कि जी बहुत गर्व है कि हम एजुकेशन पे इतना बजट पास करके देते हैं। कहते हैं बजट ज्यादा कर दिया, भ्रष्टाचार हो गया। फिर बोले नहीं बजट तो चलो ठीक है ज्यादा कर दिया, बच्चे कम हो गए। मैंने कहा यार जरा डेटा दिखाना मुझको। भारत सरकार की वेबसाइट पे डेटा पड़ा हुआ है जिसमें लिखा हुआ है कि 2014-15 में यहां 14.5 लाख बच्चे होते थे दिल्ली के स्कूलों में, आज 18 लाख बच्चे हो गए। सारा डिटेल भारत सरकार की वेबसाइट पे। हवा में से कुछ लाते हैं, फिर कहते हैं प्रश्नों के जवाब दीजिए। अब झूठ के पैर हैं क्या? आपके झूठ का भी जवाब दिया हमने कि झूठ बोल रहे हो। मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि आपने खूब रेड मचाई मेरे घर में, खूब तमाशा किया। आपकी सीबीआई के भी सारे प्रश्नों के जवाब दिए। आप सीबीआई से पूछ लो, आपको मेरे प्रश्नों के जवाब मेरे उससे मिले हों। मैंने बता दिया कुछ नहीं मिला, कहीं कुछ नहीं है और सब बकवास है, सब झूठ है। फिर भी रोज खड़े होकर कहते हैं जवाब दो, जवाब दो, जवाब दो, जवाब दो। हमने तो आपके एक एक सवाल का जवाब दिया, अब आप हमें जवाब दो। ये सदन कल से पूछ रहा है बार बार, इस सदन में बार बार उठ रहा है, देश में पूरा सवाल उठ रहा है। मैं प्रश्न पूछता हूं और जेपी नड्डा जी और भारतीय जनता पार्टी के नेताओं जवाब दो कि प्रधानमंत्री जी ने दूध और दही पे भी जीएसटी लगा के इतना पैसा सरकार में कमवाया, आम जनता से इतना पैसा लिया। प्रधानमंत्री जी ने दूध और दही जैसी चीजों पे भी, बिस्किट पे जीएसटी लगा के, आम आदमी के चाय बिस्किट पे भी जीएसटी लगा के जितना पैसा कमाया, उसको अपने दोस्तों के कर्ज माफी करने में क्यों लगाया, इसका जवाब दो। ये देश इस हालत में क्यों पहुंच गया कि दूध दही और चाय और बिस्किट पे भी जीएसटी लगेगा और उस जीएसटी से इकट्ठा पैसा प्रधानमंत्री जी के दोस्तों के कर्जे माफी में इस्तेमाल होगा। ये क्यों हुआ, इसकी सीबीआई जांच कराओ, इसका जवाब दो कि लोगों के दूध दही चाय बिस्किट पे टैक्स लगा के इकट्ठा किया गया जीएसटी का पैसा प्रधानमंत्री जी ने अपने दोस्तों के कर्ज माफी पे क्यों खर्च किया, इसका जवाब दो। आज इसका जवाब दो। हमने तो आपके सवालों के जवाब बहुत दिए हैं। ऑपरेशन लोटस आप लोगों ने किया। ऑपरेशन लोटस में पूरे देश में एमएलए खरीदे, हमारे यहां भी खरीदने की कोशिश नहीं की लेकिन बिके नहीं, लेकिन रेट पता चल गए। इसी रेट के हिसाब से भी अगर देखें तो 6300 करोड़ रुपए इन्होंने एमएलए खरीदने पे खर्च किए हैं। ये 6300 रुपए कहां से आया, जेपी नड्डा जी और प्रधानमंत्री जी, इस बात का जवाब दो। सीबीआई की जांच करो, ईडी की जांच करो कि एमएलए खरीदने के लिए और खरीदे गए एमएलए को बड़े बड़े 5 स्टार होटलों में रुकवाने का पैसा कहां से आया, इस बात का जवाब दो। ये 63,000 करोड़ रुपए कहां से आया, 6300 करोड़ रुपए कहां से आया। ये पेट्रोल और डीजल के दाम बढ़ा बढ़ा के जो जनता की लूट चल रही है और उससे एमएलए की खरीद हो रही है ना, अब जनता इस पे जवाब मांग रही है। इसका जवाब दो कि पेट्रोल और डीजल के दाम बढ़ा बढ़ा के जनता को लूट रहे हैं। एक आदमी स्कूटर भी चला रहा है, छोटी सी स्कूटी भी चला रहा है, तो वहां भी पेट्रोल और डीजल महंगे हो जाते हैं और फिर एमएलए खरीद रहे हैं। इसका जवाब दो, ये कहां से आया। और आखिरी चीज जो सदन पूछ रहा है पिछले 2 दिन से कि दिल्ली के उपराज्यपाल महोदय माननीय श्री विनय सक्सेना जी 1400 करोड़ रुपए के नोट बदलवाए आपने जब आप खादी ग्राम उद्योग के चेयरमैन थे। वो 1400 करोड़ रुपए की सीबीआई जांच कब होगी? वो मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग था, उसका जवाब दो कि उसकी जांच कब होगी। उसकी जांच में सीबीआई में उनकी रेड, उनके यहां रेड कब होगी? इस बात का सबूत तो यह है कि कभी किसने बोला, शायद यहां किसी साथी ने बोला कि कैशियर ने कबूल किया है कि मुझे तो सक्सेना साहब कहते थे, विनय कुमार सक्सेना जी कहते थे जो कि चेयरमैन थे उस वक्त, कि भाई ये बदल दो, इसलिए बदले जा रहे थे। जांच में कबूल किया है, लेकिन उनके खिलाफ ना सीबीआई इंक्वायरी हो रही है, उनके खिलाफ सीबीआई, ये मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग था, खुलेआम मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग था नोटबंदी के दौरान। इस तरह का काम 1400 करोड़ रुपए की मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग में दिल्ली के उपराज्यपाल का नाम उछल रहा है। इनके खिलाफ सीबीआई की जांच कब होगी? इनके यहां ईडी की रेड कब होगी? इस बात का जवाब दो। 3 प्रश्नों के जवाब, ज्यादा नहीं पूछ रहा। आज मेरे 3 प्रश्नों के जवाब दें भारतीय जनता पार्टी वाले कि जीएसटी बढ़ा बढ़ा के दूध दही चाय बिस्किट पे भी जीएसटी बढ़ा बढ़ा के प्रधानमंत्री जी के दोस्तों के कर्जे क्यों माफ किए जा रहे हैं? इसकी सीबीआई जांच क्यों नहीं हो रही है? इसका जवाब दो, पहली बात। दूसरी बात, ऑपरेशन लोटस का एमएलएस को खरीदने का 5 स्टार खर्चों का पैसा कहां से आ रहा है? ये सारा जवाब दो। ये सब बेईमानी का पैसा है, पेट्रोल और डीजल के दाम बढ़ा बढ़ा के लाया जा रहा है। और तीसरा, उपराज्यपाल महोदय पे जो आज जो सवाल उठे हैं कि 1400 करोड़ रुपए की मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग में शामिल हैं वो, उनके खिलाफ सीबीआई जांच क्यों नहीं हो रही है? इस बात का जवाब दो। इन 3 प्रश्नों का जवाब दो, हम मान जाएंगे कि आपके पास जवाब है, नहीं तो पॉलिटिकल स्टैंड तो सब करते हैं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद अध्यक्ष महोदय।
बैठिए। साथी अपनी सीट पर जाएं। सभी सदस्य अपनी अपनी सीटों पर जाएं। अपनी सीट पर चले दुर्गेश जी अपनी सीट पर चले। चौधरी साहब, चौधरी सुरेंद्र जी अपनी सीट पर चले। सभी सदस्य अपनी अपनी सीट पर चले। सारा भारद्वाज जी सीट पर करेंगे, सीट पर चले। माननीय उप मुख्यमंत्री जी सदन में अपनी सीट पर चले। सब लोग अपनी अपनी सीट पर चले। अब सदन की कार्यवाही कल बुधवार दिनांक 31 अगस्त 2022 को प्रातः 11 बजे तक के लिए स्थगित की जाती है।
All right, the Delhi Assembly session has been adjourned, but just before that, the Delhi Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia has launched a scathing attack at the centre. He's of course claimed witch hunt by the BJP government at the centre and asked them 3 questions. He goes on to accuse the Prime Minister of increasing GST on milk and curd and paneer, and then goes on to say that he's in turn helping his friends with waiving their bad loans. Cutting across the BJP press conference that's presided over by Gaurav Bhatia.
If she has lost her life, it is because law and order situation in Jharkhand has completely collapsed. And while our sister was struggling, fighting her battle, the Chief Minister of Jharkhand, Hemant Soren ji, was busy partying and doing picnic. The behavior and the utterances of Hemant Soren ji that such incidents happen on a regular basis.
घोटाला की 1.5 लाख करोड़ का घोटाला की 144 करोड़ का घोटाला की 30 करोड़ का घोटाला की 1 करोड़ का घोटाला, ये सब झूठ है, महाझूठ है। इनका जवाब यही है, महाझूठ है। आज मैंने फिर 3 प्रश्न किए हैं कि हमने तो आपके सारे सवालों के जवाब दिए, आपको भी दिए, सीबीआई को भी दिए, लेकिन आज जेपी नड्डा जी इस बात का जवाब दें कि प्रधानमंत्री जी के दोस्तों के कर्जे माफ करने के लिए देश के आम जनता पर दूध, दही, चाय, बिस्किट तक पर भी जीएसटी लगाया गया और उससे प्रधानमंत्री जी के दोस्तों के कर्जे माफ किए जा रहे हैं। इसकी सीबीआई जांच कब होगी, इस बात का जवाब दो। इस बात का जवाब दो कि आपने जो एमएलएज खरीदे चारों तरफ 6300 करोड़ रुपए का, वो पैसा कहां से आया, उसका जवाब दो। इस बात का जवाब दो, आज जो विधानसभा में 2 दिन से मुद्दा उठा हुआ है कि दिल्ली के माननीय उपराज्यपाल महोदय जी के ऊपर एक सवाल उठा है कि उन्होंने खादी ग्रामोद्योग का चेयरमैन रहते हुए 1400 करोड़ रुपए की मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग कराई, अपने स्टाफ से कराई। उनके स्टाफ का बयान है इस बारे में, ऑफिशियल बयान है।
That was the Delhi Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia speaking outside the assembly, pretty much reiterating all the charges that he has launched at the centre, asking those 3 questions at the BJP-led government at the centre, accusing them of not just going ahead inconveniencing the general masses with the GST that's been implemented on their daily needs, but he also goes on to accuse the BJP of helping their friends, of what he calls his friends, with bad loans. Also speaks about Operation Lotus. Then the final charge is against the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, accusing him of 1400 crore rupees money laundering. That is the charge that Manish Sisodia has actually launched at the centre, keeping a track of all those developments, the high drama that's come out of the national capital. But meanwhile, slipping into a very short break right here on CNN News 18, coming right back with more.
Well, it's not just India. A third of Pakistan is underwater right now because of the worst floods witnessed in the country in decades. More than 1,000 people have been killed in the floods and 33 million have been affected, left without access to food, clean drinking water or shelter. In fact, Prime Minister Modi prayed for the early restoration of normalcy in the neighbouring country. Now that the dust is settled on India's biggest demolition, the Super Tech Twin Towers, there is still a mammoth task ahead.
As if bringing down 200-meter tall towers wasn't hard enough, an estimated 55,000 tons to 80,000 tons of debris left behind from the raising of the Super Tech towers now poses a fresh challenge. The demolition, which was conducted by the waterfall implosion technique, left behind concrete rubble, steel and iron. Water sprinklers, mechanical sweeping and smoke guns have all been deployed to mitigate a huge amount of dust. Nearly 7,000 residents who were moved out from neighbouring societies on Sunday morning have been allowed to return home. They've been advised to wear masks indoors to protect themselves from the dust.
So what happens to all that debris that's been left behind from bringing down the Super Tech Twin Towers? Now, up to 80,000 tons of debris have to be cleared. The company that's got the contract has got it to do it in 90 days. In fact, 50,000 tons of this debris will be used for reconstruction. 4,000 tons of iron and steel will partly recover the demolition costs. In fact, large chunks of the debris will be dumped at isolated places. The remaining debris will be accommodated in basement areas. For the first time in at least 4 years, the US Navy sent 2 cruisers through the Taiwan Strait.
2 guided missile cruisers, the USS Antietam and the USS Chancellorsville, passed through the Taiwan Strait. The US Navy said the transit is a reflection of its commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. This is the first time such an operation has taken place since US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan last month. In fact, Taiwan has become a major flashpoint between the US and China ever since Pelosi's visit. Taiwan is a self-ruled island, but China sees it as a breakaway province. The US abides by the One China policy, which recognizes only one Chinese government and has formal ties with Beijing and not Taipei. After Pelosi's visit, China responded with unprecedented military drills near Taiwan, which included firing ballistic missiles, sending Chinese warships and PLA warplanes breaching the median line.
Meanwhile, China continues to flex its muscles. The latest is that it's
Welcome back. You're watching CNN News 18 with me, Griha. Let's get you some breaking news inputs that are coming from the state of Karnataka, and this is to do with more developments in the Lingayat Seer case. Now, both the victims in the case have been taken to court for statement recording under Section 164. Now remember, this was not done earlier. So the standard operating procedure of victims having to record their statement before a magistrate wasn't done when this particular report had come out. It's only now that both the victims have been taken to the court for recording their statement. My colleague Ritu joins me on the broadcast. Ritu, like I was mentioning, why wasn't it done earlier?
Yes, so that's the incident that we're discussing about is, of course, a very much sensitive incident, and where usually we have got to see how an action posed in very immediately right after a case has been registered under a POSCO Act. But this is something where we have seen a delay from the police side as well as from a state government side. So there has been a lot of speculation too around this whole incident as in why there is a delay action coming in from the police side, especially from the investigative officers. So, but now, of course, the girls are being produced in front of the magistrate to register their statements under Section 164. If the girls happen to reiterate the same statements that they have produced it right in front of the presence of the police and the CWC being present too. So if those are the same statements that will be produced here also in front of the magistrate court, then you see there will be another action that will pour in, and that happens to be a major development that we'll also get to witness. But as we discuss about it, the only main thing that what we know right now is that Section 164, under which the whole statement will be recorded, is something very much a big role that we have got to see in the law as well. But that's going to be a sealed statements that will be recorded, and this is all very much important. But now the investigative officers, Anil Kumar, along with the other police, with the police protection being provided to these girls, have been taken and to the court, and there they'll be produced in front of the judge, Anita Kumar. So that's that's something that a major development that has taken place in this whole incident. But after this, there will be a major turn. That is what we're going to get to see too.
Right, Ritu, thank you so much for joining us with all those details there. Let's shift focus to some more breaking news inputs that we are getting on the broadcast at the moment. Now, this is to do with the 2020 Delhi riots case. And now Rahul Gandhi along with Sonia Gandhi have filed an affidavit before the High Court. Now, they are opposing the registration of the FIR against them over the alleged hate speeches in Delhi that were delivered before the riots took place in Northeast Delhi. Now, Gandhis in fact say that their speeches have not been read in its entirety, and they go on to also claim that their speeches are not provocative. My colleague Ananya joins me on the broadcast for more. Ananya, I believe along with the Gandhis, other political leaders like Mr. Anurag Thakur were also respondents to this petition that was seeking the registration of FIR in this particular case.
Well, yes, definitely. In this particular case, a lot of political leaders, including the Gandhis, have been named, and cases are the prayers have been made to register cases against them for their alleged hate speeches, which include Mr. Anurag Thakur, and not only political leaders, but other people have also been pleaded into this case. But what is very, very crucial at this point of time is that the Gandhis have now filed a response to this petition, which sought an FIR to be registered against them, clearly saying that their speeches have not been read in entirety. In fact, it's also been said by the Gandhis that they have been selectively targeted, and because being major leaders of the opposition, they have been selectively targeted, whereas other people like those belonging to the ruling party are not targeted, and it's a selective targeting going on against them. In fact, they say that their speeches are not at all provocative, and they're not said anything that promotes enmity or communal hatred into the country. And definitely a big response coming in from both Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi. Remember, they filed separate separate affidavits before the top court, before the Delhi High Court. The matter is to be heard by the bench headed by Justice Siddharth Mridul. And in fact, when the hearing takes place, it would be very, very crucial to see as to what more is argued beyond this affidavit in order to oppose this prayer for registration of a FIR against these two leaders. Because remember, this issue has remained a very, very poignant one, where alleged hate speeches of political leaders were a big question during the Delhi riots, and it is one of the petitions due in the batch matters of the Delhi riots seeking various reliefs, and one of which is that FIR should be registered against political leaders who were involved into this particular case. The other prayers that are made into the other batch of petitions is seeking a compensation for the riot victims and to rehabilitate those who have lost their shops, who've lost their houses, and various other kind of humanitarian reliefs were also sought into this particular case. But now a very, very big response coming in from Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi into this particular case, clearly saying that they're being selectively targeted. The speeches are not provocative in nature, and definitely they say that their speeches are not at all communal or promote enmity.
All right, Ananya, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us and putting some perspective into this entire development that's coming in from the courts, now that the Gandhis have actually put their plea before the court and said that their speeches, in fact, were not provocative in nature before the Delhi riots that took place in northeast Delhi in the year 2020. Moving on from this to the other big story that we're tracking on the broadcast, we're getting this breaking news. Now, there's been a big development on the Sidhu Moosewala case front. Now, Punjab DGP has claimed that Sachin Thapan, who is the person who exchanged calls with Goldie Brar in this case, has now been detained in Azerbaijan. This is a big development that's coming in the Sidhu Moosewala murder case. These claims have been made by Punjab DGP that Sachin Thapan, he is the person, remember, who had in fact exchanged calls with Goldie Brar, the main conspirator in this particular case. That person, Sachin Thapan, has been detained in Azerbaijan at the moment.
पंजाब पुलिस ने सिद्धू मूसेवाला मर्डर केस की एक साइंटिफिक ते सिस्टमैटिक इन्वेस्टिगेशन करके पूरी कॉन्स्पिरेसी नूं अनरैवल कीता हैगा ते इस दे विच एक सचिन थापन एलियास बिश्नोई फिगर होया सी जिहड़ा अब्रॉड बैठ के he was in touch with Goldie Brar and the people on the ground. So इस दी असी एक इंटेलिजेंस बेस्ड ऑपरेशन करके असी पता कीता कि दुबई चला गया सीगा फेक पेपर्स गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया दे सपोर्ट नाल कोऑपरेशन नाल असी इसनूं ट्रेस कीता फ्रॉम दुबई टू अजरबैजान ते सेंट्रल एजेंसीज दा गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया दा सानूं सपोर्ट मिलिया ते उत्थे लीगल प्रोसेस चल रहा है. वी आर वेरी होपफुल कि मुलजिम जिहड़ा हैगा वेरी सून ही विल बी ब्रॉट टू इंडिया टू फेस जस्टिस.
My colleague Tejinder now joins me on the phone line for more. Tejinder, this seems to be a big breakthrough in the Sidhu Moosewala murder case.
Indeed, this is a major development that has taken place in the Sidhu Moosewala murder case. There are two accused who have fled India even before the crime was committed, and these two accused were exchanging calls with those who carried out the killing of Sidhu Moosewala. These two are Sachin Thapan Bishnoi, and this Sachin Thapan Bishnoi has been detained in Azerbaijan, and the other one is Anmol Bishnoi. Anmol Bishnoi has been placed in Kenya, but he is yet to be arrested. But Sachin Thapan Bishnoi has been detained in Azerbaijan, and the Punjab police has confirmed that with the help of the Ministry of External Affairs, after they gave a dossier to the Ministry of External Affairs, after which the MEA contacted their counterparts in Azerbaijan. Sachin Thapan Bishnoi has been detained there. He is yet to be brought to India, but there is a major development that he has been arrested, and now MEA is in touch with the Kenyan authorities, and they are trying to arrest Anmol Bishnoi. These are the two main accused who were making regular phone calls with Goldie Brar and also those who were present at the ground who carried out the killing of Sidhu Moosewala on May 29th. So there is indeed a major development that Sachin Thapan Bishnoi has been arrested. from Azerbaijan, and now efforts are on to bring him back to India. Yes.
All right, Tejinder, thank you so much for joining us with all the inputs, the latest that is coming to fore in the entire development, the case which is to do with Sidhu Moosewala murder. Now it is come to light via the Punjab DGP, where he said that Sachin Thapan, who was a person who exchanged calls with Goldie Brar, has finally been detained in Azerbaijan. Leaving it at that, slipping into a very short break here on CNN News 18 and coming right back with more news and updates. Stay tuned.
The remaining debris will be accommodated in basement areas. For the first time in at least 4 years, the US Navy sent 2 cruisers through the Taiwan Strait.
2 guided missile cruisers, the USS Antietam and the USS Chancellorsville, passed through the Taiwan Strait. The US Navy said the transit is a reflection of its commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. This is the first time such an operation has taken place since US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan last month. In fact, Taiwan has become a major flashpoint between the US and China ever since Pelosi's visit. Taiwan is a self-ruled island, but China sees it as a breakaway province. The US abides by the One China policy, which recognizes only one Chinese government and has formal ties with Beijing and not Taipei. After Pelosi's visit, China responded with unprecedented military drills near Taiwan, which included firing ballistic missiles, sending Chinese warships and PLA warplanes breaching the median line.
Meanwhile, China continues to flex its muscles. The latest is that it's testing hypersonic bullets. Now, these hypersonic bullets can travel at 4,000 meters per second. They move at 11 times the speed of sound. These bullets were fired at the thighs of pigs, leaving large crater-like wounds in their flesh. They don't penetrate the skin, unlike traditional shots. They just leave a huge crater behind. Ayushmann Khurrana and Ananya Pandey celebrated India's win over Pakistan in true Bollywood style. We'll leave you with this. Heavy rains in Karnataka have led to widespread destruction, even shutting down large sections of the Bangalore-Mysore highway.
Welcome back. This is CNN News 18, getting you some more breaking news inputs. Now, the Eidgah Maidan issue is currently before the apex court of the country, where the matter is being heard by a bench that's headed by Justice Hemant Gupta and Sudhanshu Dhulia. The senior advocate Kapil Sibal is the one that's appearing before the apex court for the Waqf board, and he has made the first claims, made the first arguments, claiming that this one is a Waqf property. My colleague Harish joins us on the phone line for more. Harish, while the matter is being heard by the Supreme Court, just take us through the arguments that are taking place. We'll of course get Ananya, our colleague, who's actually looking at the court developments to get us more perspective on this particular matter. However, the first arguments have been made. Now, Kapil Sibal claims that this is a Waqf property, and he also goes on to say that no other religious festivities should be allowed because this is a land that's been used by the Waqf board and by the Muslim community for over 100 years now.
Yes, Kapil Sibal there giving a background, saying that perhaps he's making a case for status quo to be maintained. He says this belongs to the Waqf board, and for the last several years it's being allowed to be used only for prayers by the Muslim community on 2 occasions. And why change that in 2022? He also says that there is a single judge bench order of the Karnataka High Court which also said the same thing, saying that maintain status quo, use it only for 2 occasions for prayers, and there's no bar on it being used for Independence Day or Republic Day. That he's quoting of the single judge bench order of the Karnataka High Court that came in earlier in the year. Perhaps he's making a case for status quo to be maintained, where it's used only for Independence Day, Republic Day, and for 2 occasions for the Muslim community. He's trying to make a case saying, why change it now? Remember, this issue of the ownership will have to be debated, argued for a long time at length. That will take time. You will see the Karnataka government then pushing, saying that there should be some sort of order on allowing Ganesh Chaturthi celebration, and then perhaps the issue of the ownership might go on in the Karnataka High Court. That case is still pending. That hasn't been heard at length. So these are aspects that will come to the fore in the next few minutes as the argument passes on.
Right, Harish, and the important point to also note here is that Kapil Sibal had pushed for the early hearing of this petition before the Supreme Court, claiming this very situation, the law and order situation in the state of Karnataka.
Yes, the Waqf Board, and for a number of years it hasn't been given for any other occasion. And why now give it for Ganesh Chaturthi celebration? It could lead to law and order issue in the area, is their claim that's being made. The state government, in a way, now saying that we already believe this belongs to the Revenue Department. We've already moved files and further official communication in that regard, and it should be our discretion on whether we allow Ganesh Chaturthi or not. We will do that depending on our assessment of the impact of the decision on law and order. That's likely to be the argument of the Advocate General, Prabhuling Navgad, in front of the Supreme Court.
Right, and Harish, the fact that you've been covering this story from the word go. First it was Bengaluru, the matter is before the apex court of the country. Now it's also Hubballi, the matter is before the Karnataka High Court. So, both these properties, both Eidgah Maidans are being looked at for a possible Ganesh Chaturthi celebration. The timing, of course, is a big worry, a big question here. Remember, this is coming close on the heels of what happened on Independence Day, the kind of law and order situation which was a big problem in the state of Karnataka that we saw, and right after that there is another celebration that we are looking at, and here is the bone of contention is the Eidgah Maidan, not one but we're looking at 2 properties at the moment.
Yes, the Eidgah Maidan in Hubli, that particular case will come up before the Karnataka High Court at around 3:30, and there the contention is slightly different. The ownership is not being questioned there. It belongs to the Hubli Dharwad Municipal Corporation, that is clear. The Hubli Dharwad Municipal Corporation says that this has been debated in the council there, Corporation Council there, and also the subcommittee has given a report as well, and based on that report this decision was made to give permission for the Ganesh Chaturthi celebration over there in Hubli Dharwad, Hubli's Eidgah Maidan. That's the stance of the Hubli Dharwad Municipal Corporation. The petitioners were objecting to it, saying that it could lead to law and order problem. They're also saying that there is an old Supreme Court order which said that it would be used only for 2 prayers for the Muslim community in a year, for nothing else. They are pointing out that order, the Hubli Dharwad Municipal Corporation likely to claim, saying that it's a property that belongs to them, it's a public property, and they probably deem Ganesh Chaturthi celebration there as a public celebration. That is likely to be their ground. They're also likely to say that the court hasn't barred any other celebration. They might not have in very great detail explained on what should be allowed or what should not be allowed. They will say that we are the owners of this particular ground, and we believe this could be given for other public purpose as well. That is likely to be the argument of the Hubli Dharwad Municipal Corporation before the Karnataka High Court in a short while from now.
Harish, what do people feel about it? What is the word, what is the sentiment on the ground when it comes to the celebrations, the Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations, not just in Bengaluru Eidgah Maidan but also in Hubballi?
Well, 2 aspects here. One, as far as Bangalore is concerned, residents of Chamrajpet, a big majority of them are saying that we should be allowed to celebrate Ganesh Chaturthi here. If this indeed is a playground, it's a public ground, then we should be allowed to do that, because any other public ground we can apply for permission and celebrate Ganesh Chaturthi. The government should give us that permission. Second, the argument that they are making is if this is a public ground, if you are allowing prayers twice a year for the Muslim community, then why are you stopping us from celebrating Ganesh Chaturthi here? We will ensure that it doesn't affect any structure in the ground or affect peace in the area. All we are asking is you give them permission, you give Muslim community permission for 2 days in a year for prayers, you give us permission for 3 days in a year for Ganesh Chaturthi celebration, and the government can hoist the flag on August 15th and Jan 26th, and also have the Karnataka Rajyotsava at this ground. So that's their main contention. But it is a sensitive area that we are talking about, whether the Chamrajpet here in Bengaluru or Hubli, both of them have had their history of communal clashes as well.
Absolutely.
So the government walking a very tight rope here.
And Harish, so again, I'll come back to the same question, because this is also essentially the argument the opposition is making. Why the special love reserved for the Eidgah Maidan in Bengaluru and Hubli? Is there no other property that can be looked at for the Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations?
Well, so the whole controversy stems from not that there are not too many options for celebration of Ganesh Chaturthi for the public. That's not the bone of argument here. Largely, this stems from the fact that you have the BJP and its affiliate units who believe that there are public properties which are exclusively meant for a community, which are exclusively used by the Waqf board, claimed by the Waqf board, which is not the case. It's a public property, it should be for everyone. Their argument is, by having Ganesh Chaturthi, we will also claim our rightful use of this property. That's likely to be their claim. That's the idea behind asking for Ganesh Chaturthi celebration here. And that's one of the reasons they pushed for Independence Day flag hoisting as well, saying that if this hasn't happened for the last 75 years, that a national flag has been unfurled at the Eidgah Maidan here in Chamrajpet, it should happen now. There shouldn't be any exclusive rights for a particular organization over a public property.
One final thing, Harish, when it comes to both these matters, one before the Supreme Court, the other one before the Karnataka High Court, when it comes to the Bengaluru Eidgah Maidan, of course, it's a Waqf property. So here the claim is about the property. The Karnataka High Court thing is very different. How do you think things will pan out in the court?
Well, in case of Hubli, there is not much of a debate. The question is on whether the court believes it could lead to a law and order issue or not. That's as simple as that, because the ownership is very clear. It also depends on how the Karnataka High Court interprets the Supreme Court's earlier order on what can be allowed at the Eidgah Maidan in Hubli. That is something. These are 2 points that will be discussed before the High Court bench here in Bengaluru. That's as far as Hubli is concerned. The Chamrajpet issue is likely to get dragged on. At the outset, perhaps today there might have to be an interim order on how the Supreme Court sees it. Does it believe that for now they can give permission for Ganesh Chaturthi celebration, leave it to the discretion of the state government? That's what the High Court division bench did, and then decide the matter of ownership, because once ownership becomes clear, then it becomes clear on whether it's a public ground or if it's a Waqf property. If it's a Waqf property, how does Waqf want to use it? So all these aspects perhaps get discussed and decided much later in the coming few weeks and months. But immediately the Supreme Court will have to hear the state government and decide on whether they want to maintain status quo or buy the argument of the state government that it belongs to the Revenue
Harish,
Department.
thank you so much. I'm sorry I have to interrupt you here. I'm also now joined on the broadcast by Mr. S. Prakash of the BJP. Mr. Prakash, the matter currently is being heard in the apex court of the country. The argument that's being made by Kapil Sibal is why now? The timing is being questioned.
Now, the BJP issued a notice to the Waqf board to produce documents regarding the ownership of the land, which they did not produce. And subsequently, when the government, with their own documents, said the land belongs to Revenue Department, that is to the Karnataka government. And when the land becomes government property, holding public programs is allowed, permitted. If it was a Eidgah Maidan or if it is belonging to Waqf board, then the question of observing Ganesh Chaturthi or flag hoisting would not have cropped up. Now that the land ownership is rests with the Karnataka government, the government is free to take a call on that. And Muslim organizations are opposing saying it belongs to Waqf Board. They should produce the documents to establish their ownership. That would solve the problem. They claimed that 1965 there was a Supreme Court judgment. Why did they not produce it when the BBMP commissioner issued a notice to produce the document? Now they are saying that there was a judgment in 1965 saying it belongs to Waqf Board. Let them produce the document. Simple.
All right, Mr. S. Prakash, thank you so much for joining me on the broadcast. We're leaving it at that. Continuing with our coverage when it comes to this particular big story that's emanating from the state of Karnataka. Right now, slipping into a very short break on CNN News 18. More developments coming up on the other side.
A third of Pakistan is underwater right now because of the worst floods witnessed in the country in decades. More than 1,000 people have been killed in the floods and 33 million have been affected, left without access to food, clean drinking water or shelter. In fact, Prime Minister Modi prayed for the early restoration of normalcy in the neighbouring country. Now that the dust is settled on India's biggest demolition, the Super Tech Twin Towers, there is still a mammoth task ahead.
As if bringing down 200-meter tall towers wasn't hard enough, an estimated 55,000 tons to 80,000 tons of debris left behind from the raising of the Supertech towers now poses a fresh challenge. The demolition, which was conducted by the waterfall implosion technique, left behind concrete rubble, steel and iron. Water sprinklers, mechanical sweeping and smoke guns have all been deployed to mitigate a huge amount of dust. Nearly 7,000 residents who were moved out from neighboring societies on Sunday morning have been allowed to return home. They've been advised to wear masks indoors to protect themselves from the dust.
So what happens to all that debris that's been left behind from bringing down the Supertech Twin Towers? Now, up to 80,000 tons of debris have to be cleared. The company that's got the contract has got it to do it in 90 days. In fact, 50,000 tons of this debris will be used for reconstruction. 4,000 tons of iron and steel will partly recover the demolition costs. In fact, large chunks of the debris will be dumped at isolated places. The remaining debris will be accommodated in basement areas.
Welcome back. At the top of 3 p.m, our top focus continues that very crucial hearing that is underway at the Supreme Court of India. Tomorrow is Ganesh Chaturthi, and there are orders that Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations should be allowed at the Eidgah Maidan. Now, this Maidan has a contested legacy. The Waqf Board says that the property belongs to them for over 100 years. You also have the BBMP now claiming that the property is in fact a public property and the local administration should be left free to decide for what purposes should this property be allowed to use. We saw that there were Independence Day celebrations that happened at the Eidgah Maidan, and now the plans of the local administration to conduct Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations. You have Mr. Kapil Sibal, the senior lawyer who is appearing in the matter, and he says that this property should be solely used as a Waqf property and only religious festivals of the certain community, of the Muslim community, should be allowed, barring the national festivals like an Independence Day and Republic Day. Harish continues to be with us on the broadcast. Harish, if we go back to the genesis of this dispute that started between the local corporation and the Waqf Board roughly 2 years ago, could you take us back in time? How exactly did this dispute really start? Because if you hear the argument of Mr. Kapil Sibal, he says that the property is with the Waqf Board for over 100 years.
Well, there is a bit of a technicality here. One, how do you claim a property? You either need to have physical possession of it. In this case, that's not the case. You can see behind me, it's an open ground. The second is you need to have the revenue papers in your name. That's what is called as kata in the local terms. And the Waqf Board hasn't got this kata in its name. Although it refers to earlier court judgments, it refers to earlier government communication of 1960s, recognizing this as a Waqf property, but at no point in time have they approached the local municipality and got this in their name. It's not in Waqf Board's name. And that's why the BBMP initially tried to claim ownership of this and eventually said this belongs to the Revenue Department. The Revenue Department says that it belongs to us now and has changed the property documents accordingly. And that's why the Waqf board is in a fix. Many within the community are miffed with the Waqf board, saying that the board has slept over this issue for a number of decades, did not take physical possession of this, did not get the Kata changed to the Waqf board's name, and perhaps that's one of the reasons why they're losing on this. And Waqf board's history in terms of maintaining their property is dubious. We've seen many of it being encroached. There's in fact a detailed report of the Assembly committee on how crores of rupees worth Waqf property has been lost to encroachment.
And Harish, to add to the technicality you're mentioning, there's a specific act, the Waqf Board, the Property Act, that lays down that you have to establish possession, use for certain purposes, and then the perhaps property can be deemed to be belonging to the Waqf Board. We also have with us on the broadcast Aditya Srinivasan, who's an advocate with us on the broadcast. Aditya, help our viewers understand that whenever the Waqf Board claims that a certain property, in this case a huge Maidan, a huge ground, you can't really have a possession of it like a mosque, belongs to them, what exactly are the papers that they need to have? If they don't have the papers, then are there any other methods by which in law you can prove that this property belongs to you, say by possession, by use, or any other method? Before I go to my guest, I want to take in some more breaking news which is coming in. These are updates coming in from the Supreme Court. This is the Eidgah Maidan issue before the Supreme Court. Senior advocate Mr. Kapil Sibal is appearing for the Karnataka Waqf Board. Mr. Sibal argues that as far as other activities are concerned, we will allow, but religious activity cannot be allowed. He says, you know what would happen? We can't allow it. That's the word really coming in. As I said earlier, that Mr. Sibal on behalf of the Waqf Board has said that only religious activity of a particular religion, the Muslim religion in this case, is permitted because this is a Waqf property. These are exclusive property rights which are recognized under Indian Constitution, which the community holds. Like the temple trusts you have, similarly you have the Waqf properties. Aditya continues to be with us on the broadcast. He's a lawyer. He'll give us more perspective on the story. Aditya, help our viewers understand what are the special rights and privileges that Islamic Trust enjoys when it comes to the Waqf property. And apart from the papers, are there any other methods through which Waqf can establish that a certain property belongs to them?
Yeah, look, let me start off by saying that I am by no means an expert on the Waqf legislations or for that matter Islamic property laws.
Sure.
I can perhaps address this question and a subset of the question that you asked from a logical perspective, and I can try and logically reason it out.
Please go.
In terms of what the law says to establish title, there are a number of ways of doing it. One of which is the papers and documents that you're able to bring to the table and demonstrate your claim to the title. But as you say, there are other things that can also be done, such as demonstrating possession, uninterfered possession for a significant period of time, as a means of showing that you enjoy unfettered access and enjoyment of a certain property. And the presumption that is made under law is that in such cases, anyone else who claims or who could have claimed to have title over the land is simply not bothered about it for such an extensive period of time, and therefore they ought not to be vested with a title to the land. So, I mean, again, as I say, these are general property law principles. There may certainly be certain
exceptions that the specific act really recognizes. Aditya, let's also talk a little more broadly. When the Supreme Court decides on this issue, this is of course an issue as to who has ownership, whether it's the Waqf Board or the local municipal corporation actually has rights to conduct any kind of other religious festivals. We don't know if the Supreme Court is going to decide on the merits in a single hearing. This might take some more time. But when the Supreme Court passes any order today on the Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations, what are the key things they are going to keep in their mind? Law and order, of course, is going to be a huge concern. Will it?
Yes, I mean, so law and order is something that will be on their minds. I don't know that law and order specifically is an issue that gets implicated in the case at hand. So as far as the case at hand is concerned, they will be concerned about the actual merits of the case. Now, I know that certain arguments will be made to suggest, for example, that allowing Waqf properties to be used for another religion's religious ceremonies or religious celebrations may result in a deterioration of law and order. That is something that will have some sort of that may have some sort of impact and impression with the judges as far as their interim orders or interim protections are concerned. But we'll have to see how that plays out.
All right, Aditya and my colleague Harish continue to give us more perspective on this very important story. Getting you some more updates coming in from the Supreme Court. Let's go to that. Now, the Eidgah Maidan issue before the Supreme Court, that hearing is underway by a two-judge bench. Mr. Sibbal argues that elections are slated to happen next year. And why this has suddenly happened in the backdrop of elections. The corporation has no title to this. So as we were earlier talking that the corporation has claimed a title to this, the argument of the Waqf board is they do not have any kind of title. Harish with us on the broadcast. Harish, give us more perspective on this.
Well, in fact, sometime in July is when the corporation initially claimed that this playground belongs to them, but they then went back and checked the kind of documents that they had, and they realized that they do not have anything to back their claim that this property belongs to the BBMP, the local municipality, or the erstwhile BMP as well. And that's when the BBMP gave up its claim. In fact, at one point in time, they said it probably belongs to the Waqf board. They then called for any organization having papers for this land to approach the BBMP to show those documents and then say that it belongs to them and get the kata changed. The Waqf board did not approach the BBMP then. Their claim was that the Supreme Court itself had said it belongs to them in a case earlier, and that should be sufficient. There's no requirement for a kata, and that's perhaps the reason why the Waqf board is in a soup today, because they do not have the revenue papers, land records in their name. Second, they haven't paid taxes for a number of years. They do not have physical possession of this property, and that gave enough ample opportunity for the revenue department to say that we believe this property belongs to us and then claim ownership of it. And that's how they managed to celebrate Independence Day. There wasn't much opposition to that. But now that groups want to celebrate Ganesh Chaturthi, the government seems to be in a mood to give them permission for that. And there is humongous opposition to that from the Waqf board and some of the other Islamic organizations that use this ground.
All right, Harish and Aditya are with us on the broadcast. Let's break it down for our viewers. What exactly does Waqf means? Now, the Waqf properties are recognized under Indian Constitution. There's a special provision. There are special laws and statutes that have been framed and amended over years. Waqf means permanent dedication by any person of movable and immovable property for any purpose which is recognized by Muslim law. Now, the purpose has to be a pious one. Muslim law has a lot of facets which are exclusive in nature, like the personal laws, laws pertaining to Waqf. In many ways, there are exceptions in these laws compared to the ordinary property laws, like Aditya was talking about. Now, Waqf is a property which is used for religious and charitable purposes. It is permanently dedicated to the divine, and once a property is dedicated as a Waqf property, it is forever. You cannot take it back. The dedication is perpetual, inalienable, irrevocable. So even at the court, the argument of Mr. Kapil Sibal is that if it is established that at some point in 1881, this property was a Waqf property, it was recognized by court judgments, that cannot be revoked by any kind of government action. Harish continues to be with us on the broadcast. Harish, I want to talk to you about this facet, what Mr. Kapil Sibal is saying, the electoral point of view. The argument that Mr. Kapil Sibal is making in not so many words is that this entire controversy is being created to communalize the atmosphere because the elections are very close.
Yes, and perhaps one of the reasons why the Waqf board believes that's the reason is because for the last 6 to 7 years, we've had organizations in Chamrajpet here, the resident groups applying for permission to celebrate Ganesh Chaturthi, and nothing much happened on those requests either from the police, the state government or the BBMP. None of them acted on those petitions. Why is it that now suddenly these agencies have come up, have got active and have started taking these petitions seriously, and has reached the stage where the revenue department says they are about to decide on these petitions and they would be looking at it in a favorable manner? Now, the Waqf board says it's happening because there are elections slated next year in 2023, anywhere in April and May. And the BJP wants to ensure that there's some sort of a polarization in Bangalore that they gain out of, and also This area is also not with the BJP. It's currently with the Congress. Zamir Ahmed is the local MLA here, and the Waqf Board and others alleging that the BJP wants to polarize and capitalize on that polarization in the elections, especially in Chamrajpet and areas around it.
I'm also going to take our viewers through to what Mr. Dushyant Dave is saying. He's reading out few judgments of the Supreme Court. He also says that these are unwarranted encroachments on religious structures. The High Court should have not taken this view. And I'm saying this with all humility at my command. That senior advocate, Mr. Dushyant Dave, making arguments before a bench of the Supreme Court. Has Muslim community been allowed to enter a ground owned by Hindu trust? There can be a lot of allegations against each other, but don't indulge into that. That's what the bench is cautioning Mr. Dushyant Dave. Mr. Dushyant Dave, Mr. Kapil Sibal, both are known for their direct style of arguments, and sometimes it does get very tensed in the court as well. Mr. Swapnil Kothari is also joining us on the broadcast. He's a lawyer. Swapnilji, thank you so much for speaking to us. Today we are talking about the Eidgah Maidan and the dispute that pertains to it. There are two facets to it. One, of course, who the title really belongs to, which is at the heart of the dispute. Second, when the court decides that whether the Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations should be allowed or not allowed, what are the key concerns that the court is going to keep in its mind or weigh? Would you like to tell us that are we expecting any kind of order today? Would the court really have the bandwidth to pass any conclusive orders?
Well, it depends upon the length of the arguments. It depends upon the conclusivity of the arguments by both the lawyers. And if I believe in such sensitive matters such as religious issues, when they are at play, especially when the single bench has given an order saying that this can be used only